have you done for me lately? It's Coons, what have y'all done for us lately? And if there's no answer, the only thing we owe them.
Hey, good evening, everyone. Welcome to, let's just say, a different type of Pat Talk tonight, where the panel will be discussing from Johnson to Trump, a Generation X perspective. And this show is a tribute and an honor and a way of giving our flowers to none other than Dr. Short, who's here. And we need to understand that when you want to give someone homage or you want to give somebody their flowers, they should be amongst us so we can let them know that we appreciate them, we honor them, we respect them, and let them know that what they do for the Black community, as well as some of us specifically, does not go in vain. So this show is dedicated to Dr. Short. We're asking everybody in the chat to please donate to Dr. Short's various uh, Cash App, Venmo, Patreon, and so forth. It's on the screen now. Dr. Randy Short, Patreon, Dr. Randy Short, Venmo, Dr. Randy Short, Zelle, and PayPal. So please, you guys, donate to Dr. Short.
Thank you.
He's here, our honorary guest. He's going to draw the card tonight. We're just going to be here and support him and do what we do. But y'all know when Dr. Short is always here, he's always here to represent. As well as we have a very special guest, one of his closest friends is here as well, Sister Sean.
Yeah.
Dr. Short.
Did they say my name?
Yeah, I said your name, Sister.
That's your name.
From Dr. Short, from Johnson to Trump.
Yes. Well, look, guys. When I talk to, say, Negro, brother, row, and we have this conversation, right? We often just try to tell him that they're in their 40s, and I turned 60 on Sunday. I talk to a lot of people a little younger than myself. They're 10, 15, 20 to 30, and sometimes 40 years younger. A lot of people are perplexed about what's going on with Black people in the world, or Black Americans in particular. And what can I say to you? You almost have to have lived long enough to have a perspective of what's happening. Do you follow me?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people don't know that. You know what I'm saying? They don't know what's going on. They don't know, and they would have no reason to know. And you would have had to have lived long enough to be able to tell them as much. Do you get me?
Yes. So let me ask you, because we can just get right into it. That bridging the gap, that nexus, as we would say, from understanding what the boomers were doing in the civil rights, all the way to why they were fighting for civil rights and what happened during as people say, the greatest 10-year period in the civil rights movement in the 60s,
mhm,
and
mhm,
how it has translated to 2025. Did the messaging get distorted? Were they fooled? Um, I know a lot of us have critiqued our baby boomers and elders and said, like, yo, they lost their way. They started out one thing, it became nothing but a big grift. And then even
mm,
the, even the things that they said they were fighting for basically was a smorgasbord for everybody else. And they
mhm,
left us out.
mm. Well, I think uh, we have a problem as a people being super emotional, and we don't do a lot of thinking. We do a lot of emoting, right? Uh, we do a lot of emoting. Um, we don't really think as much as we imagine that we do, and instead, I was watching this documentary on PBS called Migrations, and actually it was okay with Skip Gates, and there's a picture I had been seeing my whole life on the Black migration. But until I saw this show, I had no idea that these people had survived the lynching of two of their children, sons, and the rape of all the women in the family. And you wonder why the people look like they do in the picture, right? These old black, but you didn't know that white folk had hunted them from either Alabama, Georgia to Oklahoma, lynched and raped them. And it took black people all over the country, right, to get them up to Chicago. So when you see them in the picture and they look weird, right? They're shell shocked by a nightmare that none of us has ever been through, right? None of us has ever been through, right? None. Where our women have been gang raped in protective custody, and two people lynched, and of course the people are all beaten. That isn't our experience. I I would have never gotten it from the picture. I said, damn, those niggas look country. They look run down. From my generational standpoint, I would judge them by what I'm living right now. Not that those people to still have your head up after having been gang raped, beaten, brothers murdered, and um, and to be able to still get up and move another 700-800 miles and start life all over again with everything's been done to destroy you. How does if all of that family, by the way, the two young men that stood up and killed white men to protect their family, they've lost generations. They've lost all the wealth. They've lost, and these are two upstanding young men dead. That family has never recovered from something done a long time ago. And they fled. Their money couldn't get them past Oklahoma. So we look at things really, 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 really stupidly as a collective. We tend to look at stuff as if it's today. It isn't today. It was then. And I tell people, yes, people used to spit on you when you went to school when you were black. They did. If you fought them, which I did, sometimes the teachers would beat you with the students. And they sent a note home, and your parents beat you. Your parents wanted you to go to school with white people to have a better opportunity, and they had no idea those people were destroying you. And you don't have the language when you're young to be able to explain to your own parents that you're sending me to get destroyed every day. You consider that making me better.
Hmm.
And the people the generation before would have no idea that that's what people would do to their children if given half a chance, with your parents not looking at their racist asses. So we don't know, and this is a problem. We don't level with each other generationally as black people, right? We don't do that. We don't sit down. That's why when I talk to Robin, I don't talk down to people. I try to say to someone, you guys have no idea that if you saw a black person on television, you called people. You told everybody you knew. Sammy Davis is going to be on the Wild Wild West. Damn, you don't even imagine a black person being on a major show. It's for all the people coming up now, where they have uh all the different shows. Whether you like Tyler Perry or any of these people, that stuff didn't happen for us, right? You couldn't get that. You can't get that. Y'all don't get it. Yeah, it wasn't so. Um, I say to people, I said, folks didn't fight back. They did fight back. A lot of people fought back. Uh, these people talking about this Rodney, not no, not Rodney King. They're talking about this George Floyd thing. What black people did around Dr. King's murder outstretches anything we've done all this time, and that was like in 2 days. The whole country went crazy. But we also know you could see the stories. Black Panthers wiped out in New Orleans. I remember the headlines. People just being picked up. I mean, just so there is a war that is being waged against black people. White people are at war with us as a collective. And we're acting, walking around, talking to each other as if everything is okay. Well, why doesn't this happen? And this should be, you know, we actually towards our elders and the other generation the same way the tethers treat us. We don't probe deeply. We don't try to understand. We're upset about what we see. We got political prisoners. We still have them by the hundreds. We don't even know who they are. We know who all the celebrities are. A war was fought 60 years ago with this COINTELPRO. They had stuff before, but they created a systematic interagency, interlocking thing to prevent black people from making any further progress. And we got baffled by the bullshit, baffled by the pussy, baffled by the drugs, baffled by more blacks on television, baffled by people moving to suburbs, baffled by going to certain white schools. A lot. We got a lot of baubles of being integrated, but we integrated with all the things that they had to destroy us. We've never integrated with ourselves, and they've never integrated with us. And a lot of people weren't fighting for what we got. We were betrayed. We were betrayed by the silent generation people as well. And in reality, being a black parent is a betrayal.
Mm, mm. Wow. Sister Sean, welcome. We see we got a visitor.
So yeah, you know what I'm saying? By the way, if I've got moderators, please
Yeah,
visit my
I'm
page.
sorry. I had to because my dog is going crazy. But it's your birthday. I don't know if I have a minute. I may have missed the introductory, but it's your birthday, Dr. Randy Short. And if I can do an interlude, do I have permission to do that?
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And I do want to ask one thing. I'm trying to find my launch pad on my app so I can put this on StreamYard. And I can't, I got uh a new
Download Chrome extension, Dr. Short.
I downloaded Chrome. I have it. What I don't have is, and I see it for apps, right? I got that, but how do I get it to come on? That is what I'm thinking about. So let me see. Um,
What are your
That's the
options? What options? What's your pick list?
um. All I did was download this thing. I just wanted to get the doggone thing on. Let me try one other thing. I'll try it one more time and see which one is
Yeah, one
easy.
more time because it's your birthday. You should have tried all that stuff
No,
about 30 minutes ago.
I did try it, and
Okay.
it was weird. Um, in fact, let me see.
Sister Sean, while Dr. Short gets
Go
that,
go go for it.
get into
Go for it, Sister Sean. But because you have pointed
Okay,
to
well,
it.
you go figure it out because you're messing up my interlude here.
No, go ahead and
It's
do
your
it.
birthday.
That's what I'm saying to you. You can go ahead and talk. I'll be all right.
Yeah, I don't want to talk. I'm going to sing. It's your birthday. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Dr. Short. Happy birthday to you. Sister Sean loves you.
Thank you.
Hey!
Salute, Dr. Short.
Hey, white woman.
White man.
Yes.
That's
So
my introduction, and I'm gonna sit back and listen like a woman. This is a man's world right here. It's your birthday. I'm
so
gonna sit right here.
so Dr. Short, you were saying in reference to that betrayal of and not being able to.
Betrayal is part of being a black parent. When you have to tell your child, well, the police are going to kick your ass, and you have to learn how to deal with being abused. Here's what you do when you're going to get abused by the system. And even that won't guarantee, and I'm not picking on cops, Brother Juan, but doing everything your parents say may not keep you from getting killed, beaten, jailed, or framed, which means no generation black that's ever existed has put an end to this shit. And when no matter come what may, we're not going to have this go on another generation. Nobody's done a final solution to racism and white supremacy. We haven't done that.
Brother Juan J. Johnson, any thoughts, sir? Your mic is muted, brother.
Dr. Short is cooking. I'm just listening, brother. Cook.
Chef C, you got any thoughts?
No, listen. The brother is his day. Salute to our brother, Dr. Randy Short. It is the honorable Dr. Randy Short's day. We're a couple days early, but nonetheless, it is a necessary broadcast. Y'all be sure to hit this brother's Cash App, okay? I do need to remind folks, because amnesia is a real thing in our community, that this very same young man broadcast live from the hospital bed, right? To keep this thing moving. So it is at the bare minimum to show that same kind of dedication by hitting the Cash App $Dr. Randy Short, ladies and gentlemen. Lip service ain't real service. Okay? Support this young man. It's his born day. Salute to brother Dr. Randy Short.
Brother Negro?
Oh, I'm here for the ride. I want to say happy born day to you, Dr. Short, and many more. And salute to you. And I definitely want to see what's in store. I like the title of the conversation already. So I'm sitting back and just waiting for it to drop.
Well, I want to just reiterate something that Chef C said. And I had a conversation maybe about a year and a half ago with a brother who knows Dr. Short. Dr. Short knows him very well. And we were talking in reference to our boomers, our historians, our elders. I consider Dr. Short an elder, even though he's only a few years older than myself. And one of the things that Chef C said is that we get this selective amnesia on supporting our own and understanding of the value of the people who are around us. And for somebody who's been in the fight as long as Dr. Short, we need to give him a return on his investment.
Mhm.
We need to give him a return on the information that he shares with us. And anybody that knows him, everybody on this panel is connected to each other through Dr. Short. This is what he does. He connects people all over the country and even all over the world together. Regardless if anybody knows anybody, and regardless to your likes, you could call Dr. Short, and next thing you know, you in a full conference call with people all over the country. And this is what he does. He likes to link people up. He likes to share information. He likes to tell you what's going on with boots on the ground, no matter where you are, and how it affects specifically the Black community and us Black people indigenous to this land. So we need to give him a return on his investment while he's amongst us, because too many times our, I'll say it, leaders, they don't get a return for their investment. And then the Black community gives a proverbial middle finger back to them by literally using them for their resources and not doing nothing.
Mm.
So much so that y'all know we got to have GoFunds and fish fries
Mm-hmm.
for them when
But
they leave us.
we always do the GoFunds and fish fries for the people that matter. Beyonce, the people who betray us are compensated well. Black people have a wonderful pension plan. If you hate Black people, you'll be well taken care of. If you love Black people will screw you. We have everything jacked up as a people. So there were boomers that died in considerable numbers. There were all kinds, but in reality, it's never been enough of us willing to do what is right, okay, and stand the hell up. So we could, so we could live better, right? It's really left to us to try to do better. Uh, a lot of people failed us. Um, a lot of people failed us.
Go ahead, Sister Sean.
Yeah, I want to say in parting, I think this will be good because this is a birthday, and what I would like to introduce to the audience that not only this year he had a catastrophic a medical event which he survived, but that was just one. But he survived another one about a year and a half, correct me if I'm wrong, before. So that's like two catastrophic, potentially catastrophic events in 2 years, of which he survived. And so this birthday is really a really special birthday. And I'm going to guide him because I know you can get you can talk on things, but and I don't want to be doom and gloom. But this is your birthday. So I would like to pose a general, like a universal question that's going to be multifaceted because I know you'll answer it in 5 different ways. What do you want to leave us with? Not to be doomy and gloomy, but this is your birthday. And this is what we're doing. We're giving you your cigar now. So we
Well, I
don't
don't want a cigar. My name's
leave
not.
us.
I don't want a cigar. My name's not Monica.
I
Plus,
know, but I do.
smoke.
I smoke. But look, if you, I mean, could you leave us? I mean, just our imagination.
I'm on StreamYard, guys.
Okay, you're on StreamYard.
Okay, go ahead. Stay white.
Just
Keep
leave
going.
us. What I want to do, I want to sit back and listen. I want to do more listening than talking.
Okay.
What would you leave us with your scholarship, with all of your? I mean, this is your birthday, right? If you weren't to be here, what would you leave us? Because I consider myself beneath you, In other words, when I'm beneath you, not beneath you, but I'm working up to your scholarship level, what would you leave me with, and what would you leave all of us with? And I would like to really, more so on your birthday, listen to what you have to teach us versus me talking. So I'm not going to talk too much. So that's it. So I'm going to sit. That is my question. What do you want to leave us with based on what we're facing on current times, current political times, current advocacy time, Trump times, world geopolitical times? And I fold my chair there. Thank you.
It's real simple. The first thing I'm going to tell people is, and pardon me for saying this, but learn how to talk to God, believe in God, it's real. We have a spiritual legacy, a history that we have trashed, and we're paying for it. If I could tell people anything, with God, all things are possible. I don't know if I sent you, Sean, the confessions of the Ku Klux Klansmen that died and met God, and God was black, and all of God's people were black, and white people on the losing side of salvation history, which is the final history. It's God's history, the creator of the universe. We have gotten some things right as a people. It's only been recent that we began to get everything wrong. So it's very easy to correct. So I want to leave everybody with faith, hope, peace, and promise that if people learn to talk to God and surround themselves with godly people, we're unstoppable. You don't dump all this dope and liquor stores and 30, 40 million illegal residents, just to beat down a group of people with no guns, nothing. They're trying to destroy our connection to God. And their greatest weapon is our willingness to help them exterminate ourselves spiritually, mentally, psychologically. We are warring against our own souls for people who want to destroy us. Why not stop? How hard is it? Rosa Parks got raped. She was forced to give up the pussy or die. But she never liked the fact that she got raped. She never fell in love with her rapist. She couldn't get justice for the rape, but she got close to God and close to godly Black people, and she died a fighter. Let's understand, Rosa Parks basically was ready to die on the bus. She had already been run through by a racist. You need to understand that bus drivers back then had the right to kill people for not giving up their seats. Be prepared to sacrifice for what you believe in.
Dr. Short, if I could, you taught me something. If you can tell this audience, we talking about Rosa Parks, but remember we talked about there's the first Rosa Parks before Rosa Parks.
Well, there are lots of Rosa Parkses. She's the person in the television age.
Right.
We're shallow and we're superficial. And it's interesting, we consistently complain about the system and this, that, and the other, but we do things very much like the system. We're not doing our own thing. We don't have our own games. We seem to not want to do for self, as my cousin Elijah Poole Muhammad would say, do for self. I mean, you get a religion that's a hodgepodge, and at least the mantra, do for self, makes sense. We got tens of thousands of churches and everything else, but it's not do for self. It's diversity, it's DEI, it's gay affirming, it's abortion on demand, everything but do for self. Even the Bible says, love one another. Well, how do you love someone? You make certain that they can eat, they have somewhere to live, that they have a business, right? All the answers to our problems are already manifest. We simply have not shown the collective will or desire to do what's right. There hasn't been a critical mass of people, right? And I've seen this over and over and over again. I've seen one or two people try to do, and they just couldn't get enough. Because I'll tell you something. One, as I said, what I'd leave people with is that God is real. God matters. It's all true. You know, I think I told you we had this really gruesome, morbidly obese, weave wearing, and ugly little dreads that looked like they had bungee cords hanging out their head. It's really nasty Redskins that lived next door who hated my mother. They were constantly filing complaints about our trash cans. So we probably have about $1,000 worth of fines for having trash cans in the alley like everybody else, like they do, because they didn't like my mother for being straight, and they don't like me for being a man. And they assumed I was straight, which is true. And I'll tell you, they had been gassing my mother out where she couldn't even sit in her own office because they smoked so much dope. And when they weren't smoking dope, they were fighting over stuff like laundry detergent and other shit. And the last time they did something, they had my mother all upset. And I'll just tell you, I called Sister Asha and says, I'm praying that God move these holes in 4 to 7 days. Sat down in the chair upstairs and prayed, God, I'm sick of their mice and their marijuana. You know, it's bad enough they munch carpet and they're mean, but you know, they're like stressing mom out in her old age. Move these holes. Dispatch me, says, do I have to live in the row house between two gay families? And the white gay men are nice, and the black women are like total bitches out of Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome. You know, do you know, I didn't know, I wasn't paying attention. You know, those holes moved out 4 days later, just like I prayed. They came back on the 7th day, and that says 4 to 7 days to get the rest of the shit and disappear. Prayer changes things. Belief in God changes things. Not this faggot TD Jakes crap. Okay? Not that stuff. Not that plant a seed stuff. Not that. But like the prayer circles of our Black Civil War ancestors. We celebrate the Tuskegee Airmen because that's cool flying a plane. But imagine a black man with no gun storming white fortifications outside of Richmond with sticks because they didn't have enough guns. What your ancestors did for you. That's crazy. They believed in God. So there's this generation of black people, I could spit on you, who trash the God of the Bible. They trash everything that the ancestors believed in that helped us. You pick the sorry ass, fake, obviously degenerate TD Jakes and say this represents what's failed our ancestors. When there have been people like Adam Clayton Powell and Nat Turner and others who are doing everything right, and we're very, very evil as a people. We do the same thing that white people do. White folks pretend that they built the country when they know it's not true. We'll take something that we know is sleazy and say it's good. And that shows how far we are away from this God thing I'm talking about. Because if this were doing what it was supposed to do, a lot of things that we have, certain things just don't happen. The Black Wall Street massacre and genocide didn't go as well as the people wanted because a bunch of those people were armed and they were shooting those devils. It would have been worse had they not fought back. In East St. Louis, their fort was a church. In Tulsa, they were fighting out of the churches. When they were attacking the Wilmington 10 when I was a kid in Wilmington, North Carolina, they were shooting back outside of church windows. We serve a fighting God. We serve a God that looks out. That's the one I believe in. This bullshit, gay affirming, tongue ring, sleazy stripper dress, we have completely taken a shit on God and what we've come from because we don't have a perspective and we don't want one. So we need to stop. We need to get out of the hog pen that was co-created because everything that we do is our bullshit compounded by the bullshit of the other people that oppress us. And we need to split the difference. We may not be able to take on all their bullshit, but we could sure wipe our own ass. That's what I'd like to. Accountability, responsibility, self-respect, self-love, investment in self, correction of self, punishment of self. And if you do right, like what you're doing for me today, saying thank you or God bless you, or if I can't do something, encourage you. You know, if Robin calls me all the time, it's Dr. Short, Dr. Short, I may not have an answer for him immediately. If I do, I'll send it to him. Do you follow? What can we do for each other? And it's considerable. I'm not saying anything new. People act like I'm so deep. I'm not deep. I fit in the canon of classical Black American Christian nationalism.
Can I ask you a question? So speaking of that, you already know there's a dysfunction and there's a disconnect. You definitely have a deep spiritual. We have this deep spiritual Christianity, but that's dwindling. And
it's not dwindling.
No, let me just hear me out. I think it is. It maybe not with you, but I'm seeing it in the younger people. And is it because we're, preaching like the feel-good scriptures versus the liberation scriptures? It's almost like the current preachers are like picking and choosing, and then just like the slave masters did, they picked and choose the different, scriptures.
Okay.
Enslave us. And I think, and this is just, I'm just being open, I think a lot of people are walking away from the church. That's one question. And here's another thing.
Hold it. Stop.
Okay.
Don't give me 10 questions because your stuff is long. It'll help you when you go to places, sister, to be able to give a sharp one, and that way you can get more in. If you do a long one, you've given a speech. It's real simple. Mm-hmm. Most Black people have never seen what our ancestors believed. It's never been demonstrated to them in the first place. Mm-hmm. So you can't know what you haven't experienced. Mm-hmm. Okay? The young people have been failed by the people my age. I've been perplexed by the people my generation have been dumb as shit. Ex people, we're fuck ups too. We're more fucked up than the boomers.
So why is that, though? That's my question. Is it because
I've already answered? I answered that prior. If you were listening, there were systems put in place to get us here. The problem is that we didn't have the proper defensive things. Like I said, the older generation always betrays the younger one in our community. We haven't decided to have sacrificial parents. We have accidental parents. A lot of fucking, not a lot of family formation. A lot of folks trusting television, trusting television for education, junk food and other stuff, right? To nourish us. You give your babies to your enemies to teach them. We do everything the opposite of what everybody else does and expects a good outcome, and we're a hated group. Damn, how retarded.
can we be? I mean, and they're things that worked. We used to have farms. People used to have their own food. You mean we can't do any of it? Yes, we can. It's a choice not to, but I'm going to keep telling you if you're listening, when people lose a fear of God, a respect for God, a relationship with God, they become stupid. White folks had their hippies. We've now got this Diddy thing, although we've had this going on all along. In fact, there are two Black Americas. There's a saved, saintly Black America, and there's a sinner Black America. And Black folks that are for wickedness are our enemies as well. And we've never separated black wheat from black tares. We just said, oh, Black, we're unified. Bullshit. My junkie cousins, I don't care how homeless certain people are, they can't stay in this house with me. Why? If you let them in, they'd let the back door, they'd be smoking crack, stealing everything, and then lecture you in your own house. Okay, that's what happens. I've seen a family have someone struggle, scrub floors, do all the shit jobs, get a house, and all the kids want to do is sell the house off and cash in on the money. And by the way, sell a $500,000 home to a white person for $20,000, and nobody Black could even buy it for $50,000. And there's no system to correct or challenge it. And because of what we have not done, the only option that we have is to cut ourselves off from the fucked up Black people that don't want to make it and have a die nigga die attitude. I will do what I can for people, the little bit I can do. But if you, as I had to say to someone recently, if you're calling me to help you and you've got a drug use in your house that's stealing everything, they're going to steal whatever I give you. You're going to call me and ask for me again like I never helped you once. Seems like you need to put that kid's ass out in the street so you can save yourself, instead of finding it easier to bug and gaslight me to help you when you aren't helping yourself. We have to be ready to do that. And then again, church isn't a building. I consistently tell people the church, the body, it says the body of Christ. The body of Christ are people. It's not bricks and mortar. I was talking to my cousin who used to pastor the Potter's House in Denver, and we were talking about I called it the back pulpit side of preaching. That's the toilets, it's the pipes, it's the shingles, it's the gutter, it's the chillers, it's the rugs, it's the machine that you buff the floor with for waxing, it's the lights, it's the electrical bill, it's the gas, it's the 99.9% of what a lot of nigger preachers do has nothing to do with people. It's maintaining a structure. And that's the problem. Niggas have idols. We're into things. We're not into God, and we're not into each other. So all I have to do is go to the free National Archives and look at and help people find their families. I can do that in a matter of minutes. It's free. But when I go down there, normally everybody's white. The people whose families are intact are researching their family for free. And the people whose families are depleted, bombed out, and totally screwed, they don't go. It's just like when I taught, the most fucked up kids' parents never came to talk to the teachers, except to fight that teacher if they gave some structure to their child. We need to refine God. It wasn't always like that. But the whole civil rights movement was a spell cast on Black people.
Speaking of the civil rights, I have a question.
Don't hold on. Let me finish my thought. The civil rights movement cast the spell on us. A lot of the people in the civil rights movement that we followed, these people on the legalistic side they were not doing what we wanted.
and they were dreamers. In fact, they had a god. It's called white people, and most black people worship white people. Now they'll get mad if I hold this picture up, and you may have a black Jesus in your house, but you act and live and think like this is him. Let me kiss him. Thanks
Caesar
for
Bourdet.
thank you. Thank you for 60 years. Okay, because the black one's AWOL. We think we even when we say this is true, you'll still go to church like your grandmother's church where they still had that big white Jesus. I took a picture of it, Sean. Don't
Caesar
get me.
Bourdet. Uh-huh.
Okay, so the white Jesus and worshiping white people, black people are pagan. We claim to be monotheists, but it's not. We worship dick and pussy. We worship drugs. We worship shit. We covet, we want to be like the other people who've been able to kick us in the ass. Proof of that is when we get on the police force, we beat black people. We don't touch white folk. When we get rich, we live with white people. We marry someone white that takes all our money. We feel lucky. We hate God. And the civil rights movement, not only did we hate God, but we didn't need him. Before so-called integration, so-called Jim Crow ended, you had to go to church because there was nothing else to do. We now had options. There are new ways to tell God to fuck himself. And we are exploring all of them. And we're still in this self-discovery that you're black and you can go to hell. And, you know, it's not real to us. We're dying off as a people. We've murdered 22, 23 million of our own children and called it civil rights. So we've just gone off, and I've watched this. This is like absolutely fascinating that you get mad, as I had to tell one Negro who was upset about one black person getting killed somewhere. I says, well, they're going to kill 3,000 this week. And that doesn't bug you because you don't see it. It's as if I need a white television news producer to put it on a white mainstream news platform before it matters to me. We're stupid. I mean, you need a Klansman to tell you that, that you have a history. I mean, we're psychotic, and it's proof of a demonic problem. But the civil rights movement taught us that we could do it all ourselves. We won. And if we just do the right things, like the African countries thought once they got a flag and they got their independence on paper, they would just be welcome at the table of nations and they'd be able to prosper. You mean after people had their foot in your ass for 100 years who've been stealing from you, they're just going to stop and you didn't make them? There's been no change in the power relationship. There's been no change in practically anything, or minor ones. But if we do get a change, it gets subverted. If blacks get a business, they sell it. If blacks come into a political party, they either lose control of what they did have, the Republicans, or they come in as insurgents as the Democratic Party and get co-opted because black folks worship whoever has the most money. If Diddy were broke, he would have been in jail years ago. Diddy had lots of money, so therefore we look the other way when he rapes kids and women and all kinds of folks. And he's not the first person. There have been lots of people that carried on like this. TD Jakes is rich. He's pulling in $100, $250 million a year. We don't care how many men he's molested. Eddie Long was making lots of money. We don't care how many people that would, until it got bad. And so the music, we used to have good music. I mean, the music now, I remember being younger. I remember we were waiting for Stevie Wonder to release an album. People were outside the record stores waiting for Songs in the Key of Life to come out. I mean, it's a major event for Black people nationally that Stevie Wonder has an album out because Stevie Wonder was saying something. These people put out sludge every day, and I see you can't even dance to it. It's so terrible. But they're doing well. Like Beyonce, she looked completely drugged out and anorexic. She looked like a mulatto scarecrow, but she got a Grammy. So we everything that could point us to ground us, we don't like. Our even the religious music in the church, oh strange, bizarre, Kirk Franklin. I mean, even gay ass James Cleveland, I mean, could convey, unless you knew, convey some connection to God. I don't know what the hell Kirk Franklin's doing, but he's the biggest thing ever. Uh, Everything that would say, hey, let's stop and take a moment here, that doesn't exist. And that falling away began way before the civil rights movement. It goes back to the homoerotic New Negro movement, named by a gay for a movement that's gay. The Harlem Renaissance is gay. We've been following people who are communists and gays and lesbians and strange people and hedonists for a long time. And yet there's standards that you can read on in the Bible that tell people how to live, what to do, what to look for. That isn't really cool. In fact, if you go to any of the elite schools, like I went to one or two, I learned that there was no such thing as truth from a white gentleman, which I'll never forget hearing there's no such thing as truth. You see, there's been a war against the truth going all the way back to the abolitionist movement when Black folks began to, in America, connect to this Christianity thing, and out of that you got a movement where people use the Bible to debunk white people, and then they came up with pro-slavery thought to try to justify why they're raping, killing, and enslaving people, and ultimately they lost. It was just less than 0.5% of the U.S. population was against slavery, and their asses won. We're 10, 15, maybe 20% of the population. If we believed and did the right things, we could beat two. But somewhere along the line, with Du Bois and agnostic, all these atheistic or leftist people who don't believe in any of that stuff. I mean, I met Gerald Horne thanks to you, but if you look at Gerald Horne, their party that he's in is pro-feminism, pro-LGBTQ, the same environmentalism that Los Angeles burn up. Got all these great books. This man is brilliant, but there's no place for God or the kind of morality necessary to help us sustain ourselves with the kind of attacks that we face intergenerationally, where they're poisoning the food, the music, they poison everything. If we don't have God pushing for us, we dead. Go ahead. So that's my answer to you. And I do want to do the topic. So we started. Now I do want to talk about Johnson, from Johnson to Trump. Because I don't know, we got how many people, I don't know if y'all got, but I've got 7, 43, 50. I've got 60 people watching on the different channels.
Dr. Short, we're here, and like the brother and the sister said, we're gonna let you cook. I mean, you could explain this transition from President Johnson, I guess, signing the Civil Rights Act to where we are with President Trump and some of the.
Fact,
go ahead.
You're right, and we can even use that person. Today is the 92nd birthday of Walter Edward Fauntroy, the Washington.
Watch your PMS.
Washington. He was a Washington representative for the Southern Christian
DC
Leadership
delegate.
Conference for Martin Luther King. No, please don't interrupt me. What I want to talk about. Walter Fauntroy was Dr. King's lobbyist to President Johnson and to the Congress of the United States. He turned 92 today. He's still alive, and he's one of the people that got the pen for both the Voting Rights Act and the Civil Rights Act. He got that pen 60 years ago last summer, and his life is kind of instructive. I've known Walter Fauntroy I'm certain I've known Walter Fauntroy since 1974, but I probably met him before then. I'm reasonably certain I did, but I remember picking grapes with Walter Fauntroy in the summer of 1974 out in Germantown, Maryland. And Walter Fauntroy went to Yale and all of that. And he is a good example. He was a committed Democrat. He's one of the founders of the Congressional Black Caucus. I forget what kind of Greek he is, but I know he's a Prince Hall Mason. He was a pastor and involved in one of the anti-apartheid movement people, a lot, all this stuff. His life covers it, in fact, really well. However, Walter Fauntroy, like a lot of people, and I'm not attacking my elder because I do have great love for him. His father was my grandfather's friend. His brother was my father's mentor. Okay, to show you how long, and we're talking about going back, what, 90 years or 80, easily 80, 90 years, if not before then. And Walter has a younger brother named Ray, who was the leader of the Black community in Miami, Florida. So they're very instructive. And what I'll say about Fauntroy is that he was there in the movement, and his group were the ones that basically led Black people into trusting the Democratic Party as basically going to be the people that get stuff done for us. And we need Black elected officials, nothing wrong with that. We need economic power and all this stuff. And even though you're a minister, you didn't put God first. You put the movement first. And as a result, you get lost. And when Walter Fauntroy right now, I know he's struggling, suffering, and I can give you now a story. I tried from the time I was in the seventh or eighth grade into my 40s to try to get to be engaged to work with him. I just want to talk to you. And he's silent generation. And you sort of put off. I worked with one of his assistants for years, for 20 years. I was volunteering politically to do stuff for his campaign from the time I was 15. You're talking about 45 years ago. They knew my father, knew my mother, knew my uncles, and all of this. None of that was enough to ever get me a job, to get a letter of recommendation. I don't know. I'm trying to think, what didn't I have at a certain point? I mean, I joined the church and it just didn't, because they were boule. They got in the boule, like Martin Luther King and other people. And the people in the boule, there's some good ones. They at least mean to do good. But ultimately, if they try too hard to help Black people, the boule will betray them, which is what's happened to Walter. And the boule also gave the Johnson administration permission to kill Martin Luther King. And members of the boule were there on site to see that Dr. King was killed. One of them is still amongst us, and his name is Jesse Lewis Jackson Sr. So the civil rights movement and the Johnson period, we know that Johnson wanted and did not like Black people, wanted to destroy the movement of Black people through what the French call pacification, and we call it pacification. Pacification is a process that can be, and warfare, where you're dealing with a guerrilla war, unconventional warfare, where an army, a nation, which is waging war against an insurgency, whether it's civil or if they're in another country doing an occupation. And pacification is a process by which you use a variety of strategies to destroy resistance. The Japanese used drugs on the Chinese in Manchuria when they changed Manchuria's name to Manchukuo and created a fake kingdom with fake leadership that did what the Japanese wanted and not what the Manchurians wanted. And they promoted prostitution and degeneracy and all of that. The same thing that's happening here, and it's a system of pacification. America had something called strategic hamlets when I was young in Vietnam, where in order to destroy the resistance against the American occupation with this fake government in Saigon, so-called South Vietnam, pacification means that you destroy all the villages and make people live in barbed wire prisons that are controlled by militia that are loyal to the South Vietnamese and American governments. You give the people health care, education, and food, but you don't give them the freedom that they want. And you do that and you treat them well as a means to disconnect them from the people in their group that say, fuck this shit, I'm going to fight. I'm going to use a barrel of a gun to get my freedom. So you remove those people and you take care of a certain group. They've done pacification. They gave a certain element of Black people good jobs and access as a means to cut off the head of Black people. Somebody like me doesn't typically hang with, they don't want you. I mean, the reward, when I worked in public television, I got in trouble for speaking to the Black people on the cleaning crew. I got in trouble for talking to the people that operate the cameras. I'm supposed to snub them because I'm with the big white people. I'm supposed to act like I don't know these people, like they're not mine. I can remember speaking to one of the people in charge of the sanitation cleanup people, and I remember the white guy, Greg Ramshaw, shaking his head like, you can't talk to these Black people. I wasn't talking about anything bad. How you doing, sir? And people don't, right? Same people hate my guts, but I'm supposed to hate him. And by the way, that guy owned his own cleaning company. He had more money than me, but in their mind, Black, cleaning, low income. They don't know anything about how much money people make cleaning offices. That's a hell of a lucrative thing if you get it. Pacification. So you bought off folks. You give them Pell Grants. You give them welfare. You give them Section 8. There are all kinds of things in this basket of tricks. And I'm not against Section 8, but I'm against Section 8 being given to destroy a family instead of building a family. I love food stamps. In fact, I can't wait. I'm gonna empty out my bank accounts to put the money somewhere so I can apply to get that shit again. I treated it like Groupon. It was my American Express card. I did not leave home without it. In fact, I've kept my Star card. I love that shit. And especially when you buy stuff other people can't afford and they're like hating on you because you got a Star card. And I say, thanks, taxpayer, and whip that bitch through there and get the kind of shit like go to the deli and have people crying because they'll get like a half pound and you got 2 pounds of it. There's nothing wrong with elements of pacification in and of themselves, but the agenda of pacification is our destruction. Alienate the masses from the people that are fighting, destroy the fighting group, which is what's happened with the Panthers, Republic of New Africa, Drum, the Black Revolutionary Workers, all these people that were fighting, destroy them, kill them, wipe them out, pacify the other people, and then you slowly strangle them because you know what? There's usually not enough money to maintain a system of trying to please people who could take care of themselves. And that's what we've been under. It's a pacification program. It is an act of war. It is not concerned. Johnson changed the style of warfare against Black people. Nixon and every president since has advanced this. Obama being the worst, or as I say, OFAGA. Okay, promoting this LGBTQ thing, in particular after AIDS decimated our cities. I can't tell you how many people I know died from AIDS. And they're promoting anal sex to kids when they know that Black men die disproportionately from septicemia, from AIDS. We are more sensitive to colorectal cancer, meaning that Black men, that's the last person that needs a dick in their ass is one of us. That's the way God made us. And it yet put Black homosexuality on Front Street, which they've been doing since the Harlem Renaissance. The Harlem Renaissance, the white people went to Harlem to fuck Black men and Black women. When it's all said and done, we put a pretty face on everything like we did in the civil rights movement. It failed. The Harlem Renaissance failed. It was followed by the Great Depression. And by the way, in the Great Depression, the white people couldn't even afford to come and fuck Black people and pay them. Real talk. Cotton Club.
So, Dr. Short, when you mentioned how President Johnson basically changed the strategy up, how did
he started mass incarceration, the omnibus crime bill, in 1967. It's 58 years old, and it's all in response to the Black urban rebellions.
Mm.
He's also the one that was there when they started bringing in all the heroin and overdrive into our areas. He was also present when they began assassinating and driving out of power certain African leaders. Well, Johnson's a complete beast. And yet, I can recall one of the first arguments I ever had with my father when I could talk, maybe 1969, 1970. I remember saying I didn't like Johnson, and my father saying to me, he's the best friend Negroes ever had. I wasn't smart enough. I didn't know enough to rebuke my father, but I knew as a kid, this fucking racist hates us. But he was a grinning, I mean, he made it, sort of like Bill Clinton and his saxophone. And yet, what about Bill Clinton and his Black son, who I know, who's not getting nothing? And the Clintons are wealthy, and this boy is struggling. And there are other Black kids that Bill Clinton had. What a whore. And we're stupid. The first Black president, stupid ass Toni Morrison and other people celebrating Bill Clinton. So, are you following me? I mean, mass incarceration, the drug war, and Nixon was the one who declared war on drugs, who came right after Johnson. So they advance it, create the problem, and the solution is because Black folks didn't used to go to jail like they do now. This thing, everybody went to jail. That shit's new. For you younger people, everybody's ass wasn't in jail. This stuff, this is with crack. It's just everybody wasn't in jail. This shit is weird. That's what I'm saying. You need to have a perspective of having lived. If you're young, that's all you hear about. The slammer, cell block, my cellie. That's something frowned on when someone went to jail.
Like it's a badge of honor.
It was frowned on that you had a baby out of wedlock. We still use the word bastard, and we need to bring that shit back. Bastardy. We had all kinds of words that describe the degeneracy in our community that we didn't like, that didn't represent Black people. We don't want that shit. And then we became more, as I said, we bought into the pacification program has worked like a charm. They also offered birth control in Vietnam. Let us help you kill your babies so you won't have so many hungry children.
Mm.
Okay, so this is a pacification project that started by Johnson. And if truth be told, I'll tell you, Trump hasn't had a pacification program. The Platinum Plan isn't a pacification program. It hasn't been implemented. We blew it. Um, Look at the racist ass shit that Elon Musk has him doing or saying for right now. And of course, guys, Elon Musk, I think he's going to go bad like some milk in the refrigerator. And either you're going to make sourdough bread or pour the shit out. I can't wait. And y'all all pray with me that Elon Musk is going by Pride Month. And I hope nobody buys his cars. I mean, I'm praying the South African government nationalizes his family's farm and his mines, all of that. They need to turn that ugly, tranny, John Travolta looking ass bastard out. Fuck him.
Sister Sean, did you have some more questions for Dr.
Yeah,
Short?
I did, and I don't want to take off the role.
No.
No, but I need to rewind a little bit in what I was trying to interject before with Walter Fauntroy. That's your experience at your level, your generation. But we had an experience, and what I learned is the biggest thing that I learned from him. He said, I tell people, he taught me this. He said, watch your PMS. And this is what that means. He says, watch your power, your money, and your sex. And I'll never forget that. That's what Walter Fauntroy taught me. But what is actually disappointing me, because you gave me an inside story. That was what he was projecting to us, because we're right here in Washington, D.C., so we were exposed to him. But I kind of don't like the story you told me. How are you somebody working almost like as an internship, and you can't get a job, you can't get a letter of recommendation? That's here nor there. But I'm just want to say my other side of the story with Dr. Walter Fauntroy.
Yeah,
I don't like that. I really don't like me hearing that story. I actually just heard it for the first time.
No, I'm not trashing. I love Walter Fauntroy. And Walter Fauntroy and I, at my insistence, started the Stop the Genocide campaign in Sudan. Wow, 21 years ago. So I'm not trying to admit, I've known Walter Fauntroy my whole life. I have love for Walter Fauntroy and for Ray Fauntroy, and Walter Fauntroy loves me. What happened is when you get into certain places of power, sometimes you lose elements of yourself. As I said to Walter's brother, his brother says, why didn't he have you around him? I says, I don't know. I tried to get with, and I started early. I started in my teens, and I didn't really break through until he almost got destroyed. Then he appreciated me, but not when it could have been to his. If I had been strong, because Walter helped a lot of people. Most people don't know. A good example, Walter, again, is instructive. A lot of people know what I call nigga entertainment television, which is called BET. Most people don't know BET would have never existed without Walter Fauntroy. Walter Fauntroy made Bob Johnson work for Walter, and Bob Johnson was supposed to create Black education television. This is what Fauntroy wanted, to lift up the people. And Bob Johnson stabbed Walter in the back. And this is how a lot of no good Black people, a lot of Black people aren't shit. Don't lose sleep over some of them. A white cop is too good for some of them because they don't care. They don't, again, if you're a sinner, if you're a godless Negro on your way to hell, you're not really worth a lot of time because you're not loyal to anything other than your penis or your rectum or your bank statement or the dope that you're using or whatever you're drinking or who you're laid up with or whatever it is material that you worship. You don't care about anybody else. And that is characteristic of what we call success among that 10, 15% of black folks that get 90% of the money of the $2 trillion that comes to black people goes to them. And this fucked up state that we're in right now is largely their fault. We have enough of everything. A good 100 billion of those dollars would end all black unemployment, homelessness, and everything else like that. They're not going to do it. Michael Jordan's going to give that money to that young white woman. It's never coming to us. Tiger Woods going to give it to that Swedish hoe who beat his ass with the golf club. We should have beat him first. You know, the white woman, she's the star. She's my man. Shoot. She's my little star, right? So again, Walter lost contact. I remember when Walter was going to run to be mayor of DC, and he went and he was talking above the people. The people didn't know who he was. He imagined himself as better known. He was known in circles. We black people live in our little cocoon bubbles. We don't, again, I let people know my goal is not to be famous. I'd like to be useful, effective. If I did something, I helped someone great, the task got accomplished. Walter went out and was talking to people above their head and talking about Congress. And that didn't mean anything to the people that he needed to get out and come and vote for him, because he was so busy doing the things he was supposed to do as a congressman, but he was under attack. Walter Fauntroy could have fed everybody in the world. And the Washington Post, owned by GCPs, hated Walter Fauntroy. He couldn't get attention. There was a media blackout. He's under COINTELCOUNTERPRO. They didn't want any new leadership for black people. And even though he got into Congress and all of that, they limited how much he'd be able to do, right? And at the same time, they didn't do the kind of investment in young people like me. I'm saying I'm 15 in your office working for free for you. That doesn't. I watch white kids, if they're halfway involved, they snatch them in. The older black people have such contempt and they're such betrayers of the succeeding generations. I mean, if you're not the same age, you're not a peer, fuck you. I couldn't be born in the 1930s because my mother wasn't born in the 1930s. I can't be a generational peer. That wasn't God's plan for me, but I'm here right now. Do you follow what I'm saying? And I've dealt with a bunch of these silent generation boomer types who would not engage or work with you because of your age. And it didn't matter. I mean, Manning Marable's possibly moist communistic ass. Okay. Yet you had the little gay Asians help you do the book on Malcolm X. I was applying to Columbia. You gave me thumbs down. Fake ass Cornel West gave me thumbs down. I mean, had all these people do this, and I'm thinking, damn, when you come out of Harvard and that, what would it take for me to be able to connect? And the thing is, you need to be in the Boule. You need to be Greek. You need to be gay. You need to be a communist. All this shit we don't need. You need to support baby killing. You need to be for Pan-Africanism that helps Africa, but there's nothing in it for Black Americans. You need to be for the illegals. So a lot of these people got into this heavy, hardcore, leftist, democratic, communistic type stuff, and there was a disconnect. Okay, and I'm not saying that, I mean, Walter's Church is right there on 8th and T Streets, New Bethel Church, building housing and all of that, but you didn't connect to certain people. And maybe you didn't have to, but you create a cadre. A lot of times Black folks want to be the only ones, or it's select people that can be. I mean, Trans Africa no longer exists. I volunteered for like 2 years at Trans Africa. It's gone to you. Can you imagine you go to volunteer and the person's being nasty? Like, what are you doing there? Instead of saying, thank God there's a young black man that's here that cares about the world, give him something to do. The one person I know that wasn't like that, and I'll tell anybody, I don't care who doesn't like her, C. Dolores Tucker. If you had anything going for you, she, of course, mostly helped females, but if you were a male, she'd grab you, do something with you. And she's from the Bahamas. Old school, by the way, people from Bahamas and black people from Canada blend better with black Americans than any other group of black folks from other places in the world. I guess it's the closeness. But these other people, they had no use for you. And I'm thinking, wow. So there's a disconnect. And a lot of black folks that civil rights went to their head, that now, whereas back in the day, Jesse Jackson hadn't gotten a degree. Jesse Jackson didn't complete divinity school. When Jesse Jackson got with Dr. Kingdom, he hadn't finished school, not really, or maybe he finished his undergrad. Some of us, Raman is better educated than most of the people that were around Dr. King. So we're better educated than ever before, but we're not welcome because one, we're not Boule, one, we're not a certain age group, one, we're not Greek or whatever, or we're not in some secret bullshit society, whatever. And we don't bring people along. We have a problem in our community, in our race, of successorship. I talked to Raman for selfish reasons, right? I mean, this 13th of February, right? It will be 3 years since I had a heart attack. I've had 20 things nearly kill me. I'm gonna die. I get it. I thought I was dead 3 years ago. I didn't know I almost died on the 19th of July last year. Would have died had I not gotten to the hospital. I would absolutely be dead. You wouldn't be talking to me. And there are other things, bacteria and shit, something almost like hepatitis that these people poisoned me with. Should have killed me. Lots of things, maybe about 15 to 25 things that happened to me. People giving me drugs that were causing me to have hemorrhaging on my brain. I should be impaired mentally. And again, thank God. So yeah, I believe in the damn Bible, and all the people who don't get it because you had some church abuse or you saw some fraud nigger on television has nothing to do with the Most High God. The Most High God of Frederick Douglass and Harriet Tubman and Henry Highland Garnett and Rosa Parks and the other righteous black people whose asses pictures you got on the wall. Take a couple of minutes to find out what the hell they believed. If you say you like them and you admire them, why do you reject all their core principles? You're fucking hypocrites, the black community. Can't have it both ways. Oh, I admire Rosa Parks, but Rosa Parks committed Bible believer. But that don't have nothing to do with what? And I'm a god and shit. Can't wear a condom, can't pay child support, can't stay employed, can't keep shelter, don't have a regular income, and you're a fucking god. Or you have a BBL that leaks at night. No, what if you use Gorilla Glue or whatever it is? I mean, you got enough tattoos and shit to be a samurai. You half your kids in jail, the other half are dead, and you're a goddess. Spare me. This is the kind of stuff that emerged. They wanted this. People need to remember Henry Kissinger, National Security Advisor to Richard Nixon, whose administration came after Johnson, says the way we can destroy black people is with homosexuality. But even before that, Margaret Sanger, who was a friend of Johnson's, who got stupid ass Coretta Scott King, who's confused, it shows to her children, well, most of them, uh, Planned Parenthood, and even this USAID. I see niggas crying over USAID. Do they know the United States Agency for International Development is for the extermination of Black people, and they have an office on population that got money from Johnson to reduce the number, in particular, of Black people and other non-white people, as a means to continue Anglo white American domination. And if we gave lots of birth control and we promoted homosexuality and all this shit, it would reduce the population. We could save 90 cents on the dollar using birth control and population reduction and erasure procedures versus having to send armies abroad to kill people like they did in Vietnam. It started with Johnson, got continued by Nixon. You had stupid ass Gerald Ford. The only person who fucks up on the stairs as much as Gerald Ford was Biden. Biden would, I mean, both of them fell going up the stairs. It's some old white man thing, but I guess it's so superior. They fall up the stairs instead of falling down. I mean, they're above gravity, I guess. Anyway, Gerald Ford, who was a fuck up, whose claim to fame was destroying Adam Clayton Powell. If you wonder why he made his bones destroying the most effective Black congressman we've ever had, more effective than all 60 plus of what we've got now. And that's being high yellow, questionably Black, screwing white, Black, and Latino secretaries and making all kinds of junkets did more for Black people than the entire Black congressional population combined for the last 60 years. Damn. Now, and by the way, Nixon was there when Powell died, and Nixon was there when they got rid of Whitney Young, who was a good Black leader. Jesse Jackson's there to watch them kill him in Nigeria. He was there for 2 Black assassinations. That's why his ass looks like Jabba the Hutt being wheeled around. He doesn't know where he is. When he dies, watch all of the children out of wedlock sue for his estate. What a day that will be when the truth I shall see. Okay. And so let me see. Jimmy Carter. Hello, I'm sorry, Dad. The Black community worked very hard to get me elected to president, and I betrayed them. And a lot of goofy Negroes thought that because I helped them build housing, and he's the same person where they started destroying housing that Black people were in. Pruitt-Igoe should have never happened in St. Louis. The Black projects that they blew up, they bombed. They didn't hate the buildings. They hated the people that lived in them. Jimmy Carter supported apartheid in South Africa while talking about human rights. Jimmy Carter and them let the Cubans and other people come over and dog out the Black people in South Florida. Jimmy Carter, please. I mean, only thing he did right was like help people after he was president, and of course he died. Which I wasn't going. It was cold as shit. I was not going to go out and stand in line for that. Preserve my body heat. We need to stop crying over people. We need to cry for ourselves. We need to cry to God. Okay, so I did Jimmy Carter, completely unimpressed. Damn. Who came after him? Ronald Reagan, who really jacked up Black people. And by the way, the Congressional Black Caucus is led by Walter Fauntroy. Got to give him kudos. He kicked Ronald Reagan's ass over South Africa. God bless you, Walter Fauntroy. When I love you, I can tell people what I don't like, but I can also tell people that Black Americans saved a whole lot of lives raising hell. The problem is that we didn't have a movement for ourselves. In fact, the anti-apartheid movement was the last time we were really doing something that was for somebody else. And it took somebody like Reagan who didn't give a fuck about Black people to get us to do stuff we do best with Republicans that can't stand Black people.
They got something going on with your audio all of a sudden, Dr. Short.
Look,
You guys just bear with it. It's weird that he was talking all this time and all of a sudden the audio just dropped like he's like in a wind tunnel, but it's nothing has changed. It's just something that's not picking up. Go ahead, Dr. Short.
okay, can you hear me?
I can hear you well, but it's a little distortion in the audio.
If y'all think this is coincidental, y'all don't know anything.
Try to mute your mic, Dr. Short, and then unmute it real quick.
Let me leave and come right back, okay? And I'll keep talking to my audience. Let me see. That's like 50, 60. Got about 70 people. Hold on,
All right, just come right back, Dr. Short.
Okay, I'll treat you white.
Brother Juan J. Johnson. You've been a little quiet on this long wolf.
Yeah, he been quiet. Look, I'm gonna shut up because he keep this is his day. This is Dr. Short's day.
But yeah, I'm just listening to the Doc Cook. So much he said a lot. I will not try to dissect it all. Just appreciating the information he's sharing. Again, I don't think people realize that the man ain't supposed to be here. Mm-hmm. I mean, he's had multiple instances just on last year facing death. And I got the pictures. You don't know I took some pictures while he was sleeping in the hospital. Okay. So just knowing he's here and he's still standing, he's strong, and he still had his right mind, that says a lot because many are not able to share like he's sharing, and they're not here. So again, I'm just sitting back and let the man cook. Let him fillet, let him saute, let him grill, let him fry, let him broil, all of it. Because again, I know the man shouldn't be here, and he's here, and we know it's by the will of God. Period. At the end of the day, people sleep on God. They sleep on the power of God. And and the question that Sister Shawn asked, what would you say to us if you could leave us anything? And he led with God. At the end of the day, nobody can say that Dr. Short is not a God-fearing man. At the end of the day, hate him or love him, he gonna whoop you with some black. He gonna share some God with you, or gonna share some God. He gonna whoop you with some black. Well, not I say black. I'm saying he's gonna expose those folks that are enemies to God. And I say enemies, I'm talking about the 6 things that God hates and the 7th abomination. Those lying-ass tongues, those proud looks, those feet that swift the mischief, those hands that shed innocent blood. And Dr. Short just have a unique way of calling it out. And so again, I salute him. Again, do we agree on everything? No, but I still love him because I know his heart is right. At the end of the day, the man loves God. And if anybody has a problem with that, then they got a problem with God. Because I believe that he is one of God's voices in the earth, the eyes, the ears, the heart, and the mind. And I stand 10 toes down on it. I salute you, Dr. Short.
Thanks. Let me just say to you, because they got upset. I went in on Jimmy Carter, and I did. I mean, Jimmy Carter was supporting all the people that were killing Black people all over Southern Africa, helping. I mean, Jimmy Carter and them was supporting the repressive governments. While talking about human rights, where Black people being screwed, he didn't do anything. And Jimmy Carter was in when we had one president in the history of Nigeria who spoke out for Black Americans, because Jimmy Carter made a comment. He described Black Americans as a problem. And the president of Nigeria, Shagari, denounced Jimmy Carter at the White House. How dare you call your own Black people who made this country a problem? What kind of person are you? Next thing you know, there was a coup in Nigeria and Shagari was never returned to power. There was another president that was kind of cool with Black people, Tolbert in Liberia. He was shot dead, murdered in Liberia. So, Jimmy Carter was supporting the violence that was going on in Congo, supporting the craziness, and it's wrong. I mean, not that he was the only one. Jimmy Carter was supporting the wars that were going on between Somalia and Ethiopia, playing different sides, all these people dying and all this stuff. So his hands are bloody with black people. And let me see, they did a little bit for black. There was something that passed when Jimmy Carter was president. It's called the Humphrey Hawkins Full Employment Bill. What's a way to make certain that black people get jobs? You've never heard of it because the shit didn't work. Augustus Hawkins was a high yellow congressman from Los Angeles, and Humphrey is Hubert Humphrey, I think. You know, the guy ran for president. Black people, certain black folks got nice jobs. Okay. In fact, I say to people, after Jimmy Carter left, there was people so angry with Ronald Reagan, they created a boule movement for Jesse Jackson, for us to think that supporting Jesse Jackson would be the best thing for black people. There was a real thing that occurred. The most significant political thing that's ever happened for black people was Harold Washington becoming mayor of Chicago. Because Chicago is the capital, the heart of the Democratic Party. Black people beat the very party that's been oppressing them. That same Chicago Democratic Party that engaged in mass murder of black people in the city of Chicago and East St. Louis. Black folks won, and they assassinated Harold Washington with black help. See, everything bad that happens to us has a black hand on it. You know what? It's more likely to fail if you could get the damn black hand off of the gun. At least let the other people that are oppressing you do the oppressing. Why help them for crumbs? And then they throw your ass away too when they're done. So Ronald Reagan pissed off black people, and you had the Jesse Jackson thing. And that, I guess it was okay. The highlight of the Jesse Jackson thing was when they cussed out the old school burnout civil rights niggas for selling out Jesse. It was nice. People were cussing at Martin Luther King's widow. It was wonderful. I mean, this was the first time black people who speak for us were in a situation where they met some grassroots people who didn't care that they'd seen your ass on mainstream television, or that you were on the Selma to Montgomery march, or Montgomery to Selma march, Selma to Montgomery march. I had it right the first time. That was wild, because all the grassroots black people came out for Jesse Jackson, and they got betrayed in the end by the Boule, Prince Hall, secret society niggas, or the Democrat or Coons. Jesse ran again under Reagan, did a little better, but they used him, and at the end, Jesse supported Dukakis, who wasn't going to win. My grandfather is lighter than Dukakis. Dukakis is darker than half the people in my family. I told people, white folks aren't going to vote for a Greek man that looks like a mulatto from New Orleans. They'd vote for Jesse first. They'd rather have a real nigga than a fake one. So he lost, and we got Bush. Bush wasn't shit. He only did one term. You got Clinton. He deceived black people, but they wanted to be deceived. He didn't do shit for black people in Arkansas. And this little ugly James Cagney looking wife, Hillary, who's a stud, who loves saying dead black babies. And against the Million Man March, mass incarceration, all this kind of shit. I mean, he fucked us up. And then we had Baby Bush, who definitely didn't do shit for us. And then we got Ofaga. And niggas is still strung out on him. I mean, I don't know, does Michelle have to jack off and ejaculate into a camera for you guys to give up on these niggas? I'm not saying she has a dick, but a lot of people have suspicion that he does. She does. I don't know. I mean, the optics, if it were just on her behind, she's a woman. We don't know about the other side. Yes, I'm being harsh. And black folks are still under the spell. We were lied to. Obama was going to look out for us. Obama was going to do, he was going to be the one. Okay, first term, he has to give us the finger. But the second term, Obama, who's a lame duck, he's going to take some risks for black people. He freed the gays and the illegals and the Zionists. He didn't do a damn thing for us. A motherfuck Obama. And Michelle, if she's tired of being a beard, and maybe she really has a beard, I don't know. There's some chat that they had a girlfriend that ran the EEOC who went to church with my mother. I was praying for the bitch. She died in 2015. Don't blame me. I didn't pray to God do anything to her. But it just says God, all she did was fight for gay stuff. Her last name was Berrien, which allegedly could have been one of Michelle's part-time lovers. I'm not saying this so. It's alleged. And Valerie Jarrett might be a side piece. Certain people say, I'm not saying it's so. We've been deceived. All these people have done is advance everything but us. They don't care about us. They trot the Obamas out to deceive us. And so I can just say to you, over 60 years, I've been able to meet, all kinds of people. I think Ralph Bunche, Benjamin Mays, Howard Thurman, a lot of historic people. C.T. Vivian was a close friend. James Farmer was a close friend. I used to talk to Fred Shuttlesworth. I used to talk to James Meredith. I was very tight with Kalia Clark, wife of Bernard Lafayette, a freedom fighter. She's also the person that was an assistant to Medgar Evers. Used to volunteer with Medgar Evers' wife. Used to work with Jesse Jackson's publicist, Teresa, I forget her last name. You name the people, I've dealt with them at some point, been involved, like I said, at Trans-Africa. I had to embarrass Randall Robinson right there in Trans-Africa when the niggas said, "Who are you?" And we were in the Arthur Ashe Library in the Trans-Africa building. And I told him, I'm the cousin of Arthur Ashe, the nigga that paid for this place. And he shut his damn mouth. I met fake ass Alex Haley. So many different people. Felicia Rashad. It goes on. And over a lifetime, you meet people, you see who's real, who's fake. Stevie Wonder, Sissy Jones, who was making too much eye contact. Nigga, I don't want you. You're too into white women. Even if I did swing both ways. Jeez, creepy. Chuck Berry, you name them. Dick Gregory was a good friend. I don't know how this is because I don't go running looking after people. Cedar Lawrence Tucker was a good friend. Dorothy Height liked me. I had a chance I always wanted to understand what's happened with Black people. So as a result, and from a very early age, oh my God, my dad was buddies with Richard Nixon, speechwriter, whose name is escaping me. My dad was friends with the gentleman who was the Interior Secretary, James Watt, who got kicked out under Reagan. Because my parents were super active, and for whatever reason, we met all the racist people, Pat Boone, David Wilkerson, Billy Graham, because of a preacher's kids. You just meet all these people. So your life, I've been meeting over a lifetime all these different kinds of people. Sometimes you don't even know who you're meeting because you grew up with them. They're in your house. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. People trying to recruit my father to join up with Jim Jones, and my father says, I'm not going to help him kill a bunch of niggas in the jungle somewhere. And they weren't even in the jungle. And then they went to the jungle and they killed him. My father called that shit early. That's over this last 60 years, you see a lot. You see things that the mysterious killings of prominent Black people, the first dean of the National Cathedral, who was standing up around apartheid, and they may have killed him during heart surgery. Dr. Nathaniel Porter. So what, I met Bishop Tutu when I was 10. And I just been meeting these people over a lifetime. And you have these experiences, people from Africa, people from the Caribbean, but you go to school with Maurice Bishop's daughter, Maurice Bishop from Grenada, the U.S. invaded Grenada. You meet Carlos Brown, one of the resistance leaders who they did the genocide on Blacks in Panama. And that's being involved with various people. My buddy, I don't know if she's still alive, the first Black senator, who I love dearly, I've lost contact, Senator Ann Cools, who was in Malcolm X's group, and Dr. Yusuf Cly, who was Malcolm X's director of the OAAU in Canada. And it goes on and on. I mean, so I don't know. I've always met and talked to and hit it up with, struck it off with, but I could go back and say to you, one of my earliest recollections is what, I don't know, I didn't know what they were, but my great grandfather, who looked like an old Jew, whose body was white, but his face was sunburned, pointed nose, small lips. And they had a ritual, I guess, that my great grandfather, whose father was a slave, they were cotton pickers. And my great grandfather was a Garveyite who was trying to get his family out of the South. You know, they would go down to Central Florida and do work down there seasonally. And I guess had to get the family out because of the time, Rosewood, mass violence. So, wow. But my great grandfather would take me and constantly, like you would see Roots, hold me up and call my name and constantly call me and tell me, I love you. This is my grandson. He's going to be all these great things. And he would just call me and just do it, just hold me up and say, you know, you're a baby of promise, right? Sadly, my great grandfather, who had been through a lot, when Dr. King was killed in April 1968, which I remember vividly, I think the trauma, because the riots on 8th Street are just blocks from where my grandfather and my mother and them all lived on 4th Street Northeast. Which is one block from the biggest abortion clinic in the city that was built up. It's awful. And all the little nigger preachers, one of these Black women talked about racism. The bitch was singing This Little Light of Mine, initiating and opening up the abortion center. But my grandfather, I think, Dr. King's assassination, I think it broke him. He died shortly thereafter. It's just a recollection.
So Dr. Short, in those experiences, I mean, you know, basically, you like you said, because of who your parents were.
Yeah. Well,
Do you feel like you were like groomed or basically birthed into this fight?
let me be clear about a couple of things, and because I can go back. Black people are a paradox and a bunch of contradictions. Okay, and it's really weird, right? The more I learn, the more it's just weird. Okay, one of my grandfathers was a white preacher that was raping his African female slave. Another grandfather had at least 10 or 12 children with black women and didn't free any of them. So my third great grandfather, who had the name Short that he got from his father, who claimed him in taxes and everything else, but wouldn't give him his freedom, was so white. They have black and white on his tombstone. And I think he married a white woman whose father was an abolitionist, Quaker. And then his son married my grandmother, Betty Drake, one of the rare people I've been able to find on my family tree. Betty Drake's father was from Africa. Okay. And so I have this bunch of Indian black family or black, white and Indian. So it's strange. So a significant part of my family are people who were white that owned black people. So I don't know, groom. They certainly wouldn't have groomed me to be like I am. But then again, I have a bunch of relatives, mostly those who are white, who were Quakers, who are anti-slavery. So because I wonder, where does all this shit come from? So I'm thinking of my great grandmother Ann Short's father was an anti-slavery abolitionist farmer in North Carolina, which is some crazy shit. That's crazy. You're 1850 trashing slavery in North Carolina. That doesn't even make sense to me. And then I learned about my third great grandfather, Thomas Benjamin Lancaster, whose family is one of these Moorish mixed families from England, but they're slave traders. So my fourth great grandfather owned a minimum of 25 people. His father, Thomas Sr., and Thomas Sr.'s other children owned slaves, and some even fought for the Confederacy. But my grandfather, Thomas, married a German woman, but became an abolitionist, refused to have anything to do with slavery. And when the Civil War came, he volunteered at the age of 70, and he fought all 4 years of the Civil War. He hated slavery so much. And all of his children, other people, fought in the Civil War. His son, who's my second great grandfather, served in the Civil War as both a black and as a white. To make certain he got the pension, he had a name George Green to pretend that he was white so he could get paid. And a lot of the people in my family moved to Baltimore because they hated the black veterans that had fought in the Civil War. They shot white men. So they moved to Baltimore. They moved to Pennsylvania. But I had another ancestor named Nicholas Gassaway, who was married to Maria Gassaway, who was kidnapped and sold into slavery in October 1845, 46, and sold to a white man down in New Orleans. And Nicholas, who could pass for white, who was a blunt roller. He was a cigar roller, cigar maker, since Sean's talking about cigars. Went from Baltimore to San Francisco during the gold rush and used the money to at least get Maria out of slavery and married her. However, Maria had children. So my great aunts and uncles were not able to make it back to Baltimore. So I have relatives all over Louisiana and Mississippi who are descendants of the children stolen in October 1846. He couldn't get them out. But I'm here because Nicholas got Maria out and they had a daughter named Cecilia who married my great-grandfather, George Wesley Lancaster. And George Wesley had a son named Samuel Lancaster, who was my grandfather's father, and he had Betty. My family on that side, which I can trace back to about 1000 AD, but here they owned a lot of land, and my great grandfather's mother, who's Amanda Kelly, she's like a Lumbee, possibly a Lumbee Cherokee mix. I can't find, because she didn't take any shit. So this woman had a government job. She owned farms. She owned real estate, and she had a side business as a medicine woman. When people couldn't go to the hospital, my grandmother used to treat people with traditional medicine. So if you hear me talking about herbs and all, it runs in the family. My grandmother would see clients on Thursday. She had a really nice house around on 13th Street. I know you've been to DC. If you go to 13th Street near the Circle, man, this massive homes. And my grandmother had two, as well as a farm and some other things, and a house in Southwest, which the government stole in the 50s. My grandmother's father, the grandfather used to hold me up, whose name is Jeremiah Jr. Sellers. My family's Jewish, Indian, and Black, and of course, German. And my great grandmother used to march around with the gun. She hated white people. I think somebody may have raped my grandmother, because we have family in Pittsburgh, which means my grandmother had a sister. The way they were described was she had a very pointed nose, thin lips, very light skin, straight hair. So probably one of the GCPs raped my grandmother, who was a Seminole, a Miccosukee Seminole. My mother's people were Creek Indians who were part of the Seminoles that fought the U.S. government. They live to this day in the remote areas in Tennessee. Some of them decided to merge in with the Black population, but they live a long time. I have a cousin, she's 93. We have people live as long as 120 years. But yeah, my great grandmother, everybody was afraid of her. And that's probably why my grandfather moved my grandmother, I guess, to keep her from getting raped down in Georgia, where they're from, down in Wilkes County. It's still nasty down there. It's very uncomfortable to go down there to visit. I've heard stories that if you even spoke to a white person, they'd stomp you out in public. I heard this from my cousin that lived to be about 106 years old. So my grandmother would carry around a Colt 45 pistol and would cuss at people. Everybody thought she's crazy. So I'm really not militant compared to, I think she's more Juan's kind of person. Now, my father's father, and all of his uncles and all, the ones that come out of this line, they were kind of violent. I had about 5 or 6 great uncles, and they all went postal. They had a mass shooting situation with white people down in North Carolina. So none of them have a death certificate because they disappeared. Typically, they run over from North Carolina to Virginia and change the name to Freeman, whatever. I don't know. And my grandfather and all my cousins, all of them moved to Philadelphia and DC, Baltimore, usually after some kind of violent altercation. down where we're from in North Carolina. And as for my grandfather, who's my mother's father, Jeremiah, he was a Garveyite, and you can't be a Garveyite down south. That's crazy. So I don't know if I picked my father's mother would call and cuss out Eleanor Roosevelt on her personal number in the White House. She's very active. So, so I don't know. My dad, to me, was my dad wasn't involved in stuff until after Dr. King got killed. So he's kind of coonish. My mother went to the marches, was out marching with Sidney Poitier and all of them in 1957 and then in 1963. And, my mother had a dream opportunity. If you've heard of Barry Goldwater wanted to have a Black assistant, and he picked my mother. And my mother had an opportunity. My mother turned him down. A lot of people wonder, a lot of stuff, Juan, you guys know, opportunities come to you. But at what price to your people? I had an opportunity to be public relations for the Rwandan embassy. But what they wanted me to do was to cover up the mass murder of people, mass assassinations. Needed the money every time. It says, God, why is it that I have to have hands covered in blood of people I care about in order to eat? This is why we need our own businesses and our own things, because one way or the other, even if you just have a regular job, you're building up other people, but you're not building the community that you come from. There's a South African documentary called The Last Train to Dimbaza. And it's amazing if you were to see it, because there's a point where they pass this graveyard that's full of little graves of all the dead South African children that died. Even now in South Africa, again, fuck Elon Musk and this thing about white South Africans. At minimum, and this is dated information from 10 years ago or more, 10,000 plus Black children die in South Africa every year due to malnutrition. Do you realize? And that's the lowball number. That's 120,000 unnecessary dead children. South Africa got its so-called new South Africa, 31 years ago? So every 10 years, that's 1 million people, right? That means 3 million plus Black babies have died unnecessarily in South Africa due to the social public policy that white South Africans made as part of the deal to let a few Negroes get paid. 3 million. And then we'll talk about a few farmers. They need to go fuck themselves. Are y'all hearing me? The Last Train to Dimbaza, it shows the trains. If you ever go to South Africa, the trains are set up where Black people go to work for white people. The trains aren't taking you to build something for yourself. Even when you take the trains to work, you're going to build up the very people that don't believe in your humanity, that don't consider you human, that vote against you, that want you segregated, that don't want you to have safe drinking water or housing or education. That's, and even in that, that's interesting. Got to do a little bit of traveling, got to go to see a little bit of the Caribbean, some of Latin America, some of Africa, some of Europe, some of the Middle East, Australasia. In fact, if I had a whole bunch of money, I'd love to travel with friends all over the place, and would love to. That's my hope this year. 60, I'm going to do some kind of trip. But the first thing is I have to do a road trip. As you know, I told you guys I had my heart attack on February 13th, 2022. And all of that's strange because I was telling someone I had a dream in 2020 when I was 55 that I had a dream and it was really weird, like an AI deep fake film, and it narrated my whole life to me. And then at the end it said, and when Randy Short got to 57, one day he died. I woke up from the dream saying, damn, that's weird. So I'm going to die at 57. Wow. And I was thinking, nah. The day I had the heart attack was 4 days after my birthday on February 9th. And I realized as I was having the heart attack, ooh, this is your death day. This is what the dream was telling you. You're going to die. You're 57. And I figured, well, if I'm going to die, may as well talk to God before I go. So my mother says, you want to go to the hospital? And we'll be around a bunch of racists and foreigners. If I'm going to die, let me die at home in dignity, right? With the same dirty drawers I handle, I don't have to change them. So I says, no, Mom, I'm not going to the hospital. They can't help me. Only God can save me. And so I'm going to talk to God. And I remembered the book of Job when all the disastrous things happened to Job, all of his children are killed, all of his property stolen, and all of that. He thanked God. I think that's why I'm alive. I sat down and thanked God for his goodness. And I thank God because when I thought about it, I was 57. I drowned when I was 5. Nobody knows why I didn't die then. And so I says, thank you for 52 years. I have no further requests. I'm glad I didn't die when I was 5. So if you want me, you got me. And I'm still here. And I will tell you, my dad, oh, by the way, so February 13th this year, we've got to see the biopsy because my mother's been diagnosed with cancer. Isn't it interesting? 3 years to the day of my heart attack, we're going to find out what stage cancer my mother has, how serious it is. So we're going to have to do a road trip. Don't worry. Everybody, if you know anybody with cancer, they have a non-invasive ultrasound treatment that kills cancer that you can get treatment in a day. And they take Medicaid, Medicare, and I hate Obama or a faggot, but I love Obamacare. And I'm an Obamacare nigga. I can't wait for my next free ride to the hospital. That's he didn't even get that right. I mean, he don't get his sex right. I guess you don't get anything right. But let me just say to you, I am exceedingly optimistic that after the 13th, we're going to go on a road trip to Texas and beat this cancer shit. And then after that, I have an invitation. My best friends in South Africa and Mandela's family, and now they finally understand the shit I was telling them about Mandela. Before it was cool to call his ass out. Okay, one thing about me, I'm consistent. If I tell you Obama wasn't shit in 2004, I'm saying it 21 years later, I don't care. If I told my friends in 1984 T.D. Jakes wasn't shit, and I've never stopped saying it, what you see is what the hell you get. That's the one thing I think I got from my crazy grandmother with the Cult 45. So I can't say whether I was groomed. All I can say to circumstances beyond my control, from the drunk white driver that nearly killed my whole family in 1964, driving down the wrong side of the highway, which hit our car in front impact, no seatbelts in 64. My mother, who hit this, right? That's a blow hard enough to abort a baby, but that's not it. And the racist Nazi doctor that was pushing thalidomide, that was trying to force my mother to take drugs that would have either fucking destroyed me in terms of me not having a head or arms or legs, whatever. My mother refused. for me to be born on a hospital elevator floor and not get sick from some strange bacteria and die. I mean, can you imagine? I was born on the floor of a hospital. Anybody know hospital floors are dirty? Okay. uh, that, and then the doctor hated me. The doctor told my parents I was irredeemably retarded. They should give me to science because I would never amount to anything. I remember the doctor holding me and I remember screaming. I could feel the hate as a baby. I could feel the hatred. I had nightmares into my 40s trying to figure out what it was. And I could remember this man hating me, feeling hate, and in the hands of a hateful white doctor. And imagine the folk wanting to take my organs all these years later, 50, 57 years later, the same kind of shit going on, and so forth. And just my parents, right, I was born in DC because my parents, the schools were closed in many places in Virginia to blacks because of massive resistance. So I'm DC born, but Virginia bred initially. All this racial stuff, it may make you do something that you wouldn't have ordinarily done. It's not like I'm so driven to things. It's like if you lived with really racist people, they will make you aware, okay? The paper boy that won't serve, I don't serve papers to niggers. I remember this. What was that? 1967, Ricky Riley, the retarded white boy that had the paper route, told my father that I don't serve niggers to my father's face. Or being in the car and the police stop your parents. My mother's light skin, my dad's dark. They thought my father had a white woman. I remember all the little nasty things the cop said with his hand on his gun. And them looking to make certain that we weren't white kids because my dad was going to get his ass beat that night. These things shape you. I mean, what the hell? We almost all got killed because how my mother looks. Do you follow? All kinds of things. My father's carrying me in the store, and white people think he stole a white baby, and they call the police on my father. So white people made me like this as much as anything that happened in my family. This is constant stuff. I mean, white kids would come from other neighborhoods because we lived in an all-white area just to fight you because you weren't white. I still don't get it. But you learn people really do hate you, and it's crazy. So the kids try to force me to eat raccoon shit because I'm black. Raccoon shit would have killed me. My brother was able to rescue me, right? Are you feeling me?
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, that's I I just started learning how to talk to scream to keep people from putting raccoon shit in my mouth. Who does stuff like this? Why do you need to put trash in our yard and then call us dirty? Why do you beat your children if they speak to you? I mean, why do the teachers do certain things to you? Why do you follow it? So, um, I I didn't ask for this stuff. I didn't say, "Oh, I want to be angry about racism." No, but if someone comes and spits on you, I remember the craziest thing that ever happened to me. I left my army helmet outside, and like a dummy, I put it on. Someone had pissed in it. I was covered in piss from a white kid. That was funny. Do you understand me? And I have hundreds and hundreds. I mean, I'm not that old. I didn't grow up in Mississippi, right? Why did my teacher need to body slam me for saying Egyptians were black? Why did my teacher decide black kids couldn't read? Why does this teacher try to make me out to be retarded so I could be kept back in the first grade? Right? So I have hundreds and hundreds. This stuff all happened early. I don't know. A lot of black people don't get the real deal. The people I came up were raw. Go back to Africa. We hate you. When Dr. King got killed, some white guy got stabbed on 14th Street. People are threatening to kill us for revenge. I don't even live in this, right? What else can you do? Either, let me tell you something. I remember this from 1969. First grade. The teacher, her name is Mrs. Young. Mrs. Young looks a lot like Hillary Clinton. That's probably why I don't like Hillary Clinton. And Mrs. Young, when we started school first day, I'll never forget, the class may have had about 35 kids in it, maybe 5 were black. And an irate white mother came in and counted. In fact, she didn't just count. It's like she came up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 niggas. 5. And goes to the teacher and says, why would you let them in your class? There are too many niggas in this class. My daughter has 5 niggas in her class. You're a white woman. Why are you allowing this? Can't you make them leave? And she's saying to her, it's my job. She says, well, you know what? I'm going to make your job easier. She took her daughter out of her class. That's not my first day of school, but that's first grade. And I can tell you, pre-kindergarten, worse shit happened. So by first grade, I've been dealing with this shit for about 3 years. But Mrs. Young had a little plan. Mrs. Young segregated the class by what she said their ability to read. And of course, all the blacks were put in the slowest group. I already knew how to read, but I don't read well out loud to this day. I'll stumble, I'll botch up words. I can read fast, but it goes so fast until the words get scrambled. I do that in the Bible. Sometimes it slow down. And what Miss Young would do when we would read is she would intimidate, insult, and scare the black kids and convince them that they couldn't do it. They couldn't make it. And I remember the other black kids in the circle, they would have their heads down because it was a white woman. And there was one girl in particular, I'll never forget her name. Her name is Julia. Julia's a dark-skinned girl, and she would just disrespect that girl so badly until whenever the reading started, she would just have her head down. Just go lie to me, white woman. Don't hurt me. Don't talk bad about me. And Julia, would you like to read? And she'd smile. And Julia had her head down. No, ma'am. Get to me, and I could read. And of course, I'm used to it. I'm the odd nigger out. I don't fit in. I'm bad. And she would get so angry because I would read on the other black kids, because the circle had a lot of whites, but she would gradually say, you're doing so well, we're going to put you in the other group, to make it seem as if it wasn't racist what she was doing, right? And because I could read better than the white kids in it, which made her, but she would help the white kids that couldn't read. Me, she'd just be mad. And one day I told her, I want to be in the other reading group. And so she told me, well, if you want to be in the other reading group, you need to be able to read She didn't do this to the other people. You need to be able to read the last chapters of the book, and then I'll think about it. So I took the book home and sat down that whole weekend reading it backwards and forwards. And on that Monday, I came in and she was doing it. And I says, Miss Young, can I try my reading for chapters 5 and 6? And she smiled because she hated black people and black kids. White women destroy lots of black children. Forgive me, you black women are fucked up and trusting your children's future to white bitches. Stupid assholes. Those are your kids. They should know how to read before they get to school. It is nobody's responsibility other than yours. If you don't want to have a kid, don't spread your goddamn legs. And think about who you spread them for. And if you spread them for a sucker, that baby is your damn responsibility, not the community, not the state. It doesn't take a village to raise a child. It takes a decent ass, committed, dedicated mother. And we are lacking that. Let me finish my story. Now that I pissed off the pork chop feminists. Fuck y'all. This is my birthday, and I'm celebrating it the only way I know how, pissing off stupid ass black people. And I love it. Oh, I love me, right? Let me hug White Jesus. White Jesus, he's my friend. If y'all don't want me, he's a friend to the end. My White Jesus, I like him. And even
what do you have to lose?
And White Jesus will give your kids good hair. He won't need a weave if you get him. Your kids will just have that nice straight hair, because our sisters are so unhappy with their hair and everything else. Anyway, Mrs. Young, can I do my test? And she smiles. Do you really want to do it? Are you ready today? She says, I'm ready. So she says, go ahead. So I start reading, and she realizes I'm doing it flawlessly. And she gets angry and says, what do you think you're trying to pull? That's not reading. Who taught? And she said, it's over. I'm not going to play anymore with you, Short. And so what I did was I had my sit in. Since she did that to me, I took my chair, turned my back to her, and I would scream during the reading session. I'm going to disrupt the whole fucking thing. And I did it every day until that bitch gave me permission to go to the library. So I was no longer in a reading circle. And what happened was I would go to the library and read. And by the way, I never liked fiction, so I started reading nonfiction. I like real history. After all this fakery, I need stuff to be real. I can't deal with fiction. It's got to be something that actually happened, real shit. Let me just tell you, Mrs. Young set me up to make it out that I couldn't read. I was retarded. They'd write all these ugly notes. My mother would see it, this, that, and the other. We need our own schools. And I was sent in to see, and they picked it out specially. There was a reading specialist that was Black. Look at what Miss Young would do. She would send me to the Black reading specialist so she could say I couldn't read, and I'd be kept back and I'm sort of retarded or whatever, right? Excuse me. And you know what? I told the lady, her name is Miss Delaney. Says, Miss Delaney, I don't read well out loud, but you pick any book you want and I'll read it and I'll tell you what the story is about. Can I do that? And when I picked a book from the second or third grade, it was about an Indian and his white friend. I'll never forget the book. I explained the whole story to her, and Mrs. Delaney doubled over crying and said, I can't do this. See, it was her job to destroy me. I took the note back to Mrs. Young, and she began to curse. Damn it, you and your tricks. But that's okay. She was mad because I would call Mrs. Young even then in 1970. So what is that? 55 years ago, one of my favorite words was racist. By the next year, I was in a far more advanced reading group because I tested well in spite of Mrs. Young. So when I say to you guys, and by the way, my parents didn't help me, my mother didn't tell me. When Mrs. Young was my teacher, I think white girl spit in my face. And because I did a rep, I've always had a gift for poetry. And this white girl named Annie, she was from West Virginia or Appalachia somewhere. There are a lot of people who are moving to the DC area for the jobs, government jobs from West Virginia and other places. And they could be the most kind or the most nasty white folk you ever want to meet. And for whatever reason, even back then, most of my friends were white. The black people thought I was crazy. They would not be friends to me. I couldn't win over black friends. I was told I acted white or whatever. I'm fighting white people and I'm acting white. See, I learned early that black people were sick as hell. I mean, and it's been one long lesson that most black people are sick, and I don't know if they can be saved. But the white girl, Annie, was mad that all of the white kids that she wanted to be friends to were friends to me because I make people laugh, as you know. And so, and these people were so obsessed with black people, all the stories they were told. I would do stuff to turn things out. So people always wanted to be around me to see what I was going to do next. And she was mad, and I think she called me a nigger. I'm so used to that. Nigger's not even offensive to me. Everybody used it. A lot of y'all don't. You've been to certain places in the South. Everybody calls black people niggers to their face. It's just normal. I grew up with it. I didn't realize how bad the word nigger was until I moved to a black area because it just heard it all the time. Nigga this, nigga that, nigga, nigga, nigga. I mean, if someone said nigga, I would turn around, think they were calling me. And I could care less about that because to me, proud nigga, smart nigga, intelligent nigga, rational nigga, religious nigga. I didn't have a problem with it, but I'll tell you, the white girl got so mad she called me a nigger. And one thing I don't know, whenever people bother me, for some reason I know exactly what to do back to them. I came up with the rap with the rap on her. And I said something like, Annie's got no class, Annie's white trash. And all the kids fell out laughing at her because none of them liked her because she was poor and white. And that girl spit in my face. Went to the teacher with the saliva going down my face saying, Annie spit in my face. And the white female teacher turned her head away because she wasn't going to punish the girl for spitting on me. So what I did was I went to the water fountain the next day. Before school, the buses took us home. Went to the water fountain, hawked up all the spit I could get. Went to the water fountain, and I had my jaws full of water. And I did this all on this white girl. She was covered in saliva and water. And there was a hush over the class. The teacher gave me a note. I took the note home like a dummy, and my father whipped the shit out of me. And that's what I talk about, generations betraying, the older ones betraying. My father never asked me what happened. And one of many times my father beat me because somebody white said something. That's the slave in a lot of black people. For me, nobody, if I had a child or anything else, white or otherwise, could say something to me about a child of mine without me getting all the facts. And so the other thing you learn early on is that part of being black is betrayal, even in your own family.
Wow. Wow. Well, Dr. Short, that is definitely a lot in 60 years. And like I said.
Yeah,
That's
we don't want to
wow too. Wow. I actually said wow the same time you did, Q. I was on mute, but wow.
So, Dr. Short, with that, and you know, I don't know how much time we got left. I don't know if everybody got something else they want to add.
do.
When you going forward, how could we take from your living legacy and being able to identify number one, allies, and number two, enemies,
It's
enemies
very
from
simple.
within and enemies from without.
It's very simple. Everything operates the same. Love neighbor as self. Who respects you? Who treats you? It says you don't hear me say hate white people, all white people, because I'll tell you, uh, my great great grandmother Annie, who's white or could pass for white, did everything she could at all times to help black people. That was her life. The place I'm going to get treated for cancer, it's a white gentleman by the name of Cam Husty. He's an intellectual properties attorney who's committed to making certain that black artists and entertainers get paid. So the Neville brothers, when they got that money you heard about years ago, Brother Q,
Mm-hmm.
it's my friend. He goes, anybody black broke that's an entertainer that he can help because he loves black music and black culture and he hates injustice. That's his life. Um, I've had many people who've helped me when nobody black would, over and over and over and over again. They've been everything but black Americans and then white folks to oftentimes save me from black people or foreigners. What do I get from that? Again, love neighbor as self. Who's righteous? Who's holy? Who's decent? To separate sinners from saints, takers from givers. That's all you have to do. Have a standard, an absolute standard, and it people will let you know who they are. People show who they are. Even people close to you. I gave someone some money a few weeks ago, and I let them know, hey, look, I'm very low. I'm not going to have something for another emergency. What do? You turn around and wait a couple of days, then you ask me, yeah, your mother's sick, mine is too, and mine is sicker than yours. And no, not this time, right? And I hope that person learned a lesson. I've been very helpful, but learning how to say no to people, even people you like. You don't have to say yes all the time. The only kinds of people that say yes to everything are slaves or suckers. The power of no.
They got you in the wind tunnel again. That's all right. That's all right. It came back the last time. You know, before that you had logged out and logged back in, but you're good, Dr. Short. Just keep talking for a second. We'll see if it comes
So,
back in.
you've got to respect and love yourself and demand that other people meet you halfway or better. And if they don't do that, there are a lot of people I like that aren't going to ever like or care a damn about me. Stop just focusing on how you feel about that person. How do they feel about you?
Okay.
Look for people that want to sow into your life. I was talking to someone about Sister Shauna, though she wasn't in the conversation, talking about agricultural grants. She deserves it. I can't repay her for her kindness directly, but I'm thinking about it. If I get this thing and get her with, I think I can change her life. I'm also thinking about St. Paul College. I don't quite know how. There's got to be something I can do for. We have to think about what we can give from others and what we should at least expect. Not measure for measure, but within
your capacity. What could you do for me? What will you do? In the words of Chaka Khan, what you gonna do for me when the chips are down? Stop making excuses. Racism is no excuse for me to mistreat or abuse others, younger, older. There's no excuse. Someone tried to molest me, multiple molesters in my childhood. That doesn't justify me messing over women. Child abuse, all kinds of crap doesn't justify me passing it to the next person, right? Avoid people that displace anger, people that won't be accountable, people that are not responsible, people that can't manage their anger, people that have addictions, basically ungodly people. You are the company you keep. And it's better to keep your own company and be alone than be sullied by a lot of bullshit that people have. That's what I'm saying. I've been dead many times over. And it's amazing that people that tend to like me are gangsters. I get along with gangsters. Again, Rayful Edmonds, a drug kingpin that died, is probably my cousin, reasonably certain. Frank Lucas is a cousin. A lot of thugs in my family. Lots of them. People in my family, bootleggers, doing all kinds of stuff. It almost comes natural to think of ways to get over on something. It runs in the family. I guess it's our Nigerian genes. Okay? It would be very easy to get into garbage. Easy. I love chemistry. I know I could make up some good crack. I worked as a bartender. I think I never told the story. I was over at Sirius Radio. They were going to have an office party. It was dull. And the people told me make drinks. And I shook up, man. I made some Cosmos. I had the people fighting their bosses and shit. They had to end the party. They threw me out. They said, take your drink mix, get out. You've made our whole party go. You made everybody fight and rebel against it. I had people fighting over Cosmos. They're only supposed to serve about like 60 drinks. I sent out 400. People getting wild, dancing, white women slow dragging on black men twerking. and I got thrown out with my cosmopolitan mix. And never invited back. So I'm good with shit. I know if I made drugs, whatever, I mean, I'd have everybody messed up. That stuff comes easy. It comes easy to do wrong. But you know what? It pays off better to do it take a little more time to do it the right way. That's what these kids learn once they're in jail. I could have made this doing it the right way. You know, God's way is the best way. And God's way isn't being a sucker. It doesn't mean you can't defend yourself. You can't have a gun. You can't have money. You can't have the nice things. Are you following me?
Yep.
So what I would say to people is focus in. By the way, you know, if you are with God, God will bring people into your life that you are supposed to be around. Stop trying to make things happen, whether it's love or relationships. God provides. It says he'll supply all of our needs according to his riches and glory. Not you do it. And it's a fucking lie that it says the good Lord helps those that help themselves. It says, be still and know I'm God. I know you guys have to leave. We can do another one of these or do something else. But one thing I'm going to say in particular, I say this to Black men for Patriarch Summit. Real men love women and love children, and they protect and they provide. If you're not at least trying to protect or provide, you're not a man, no matter how big your dick, your car, your guns, your house, or whatever you have. Real men are givers, providers, carers, nurturers. And by the way, real men like other real men and have solidarity. Some of the stories I've told you, I didn't use my word. A lot of the people I've met are brother fuckers.
at the core of what I've seen is that we have pork chop feminists. These are miserable Black women that hate being mothers, wives. They hate being women. And we have brother fuckers where the only aspect of being a man they like is that they don't get pregnant and they can get pussy. But they don't care about anyone. They don't think about family, about being fathers, being brothers, being uncles or grandfathers. They live for the selfish moment. And when they get checked, when the way they mess over their community, they get checked by the other community, they cry out racism. And I don't care about such people, male or female. But I'm just telling you, this God thing, I didn't tell y'all, but I had acute kidney injury. My kidneys were supposed to fail July 19th last year. And they thought all my organs would fail. And I'll tell you again, power of God. I told my mother in the emergency room, they said, we're going to have to put you on dialysis and you'll probably need it for a long time. And I told my mother, that's from the devil. I don't need dialysis. This is a test from God and we're going to pass. My kidneys bounced back within 12 hours of being in the hospital. God is real. And I didn't talk this much about God, but I see so many people lost. Not the fake stuff, but the real stuff. The real stuff is real, like real food, real eggs, real non-GMO stuff. This GMO religion, I agree with you. You can't get me in the church. I've been hating GMO religion since before I could talk. When my father's friend, who my father left his church and my mother's church to help build a church for this nigga, and he's cussing my father out, who's the only tithe payer in a church of 200 people, cussing him out and assuming because I'm a baby, sitting next to my dad on the piano bench, Ralph Green, I'm calling the name, Free Gospel Church, established 1963 or 64. Okay, 65. I was there cussing at my father, trying to figure out what my father wanted. My father, put in the sewer line so people could shit in a real toilet in the church instead of an outhouse. Put the electrics in so you could have lights. Started your radio broadcast choir for your black ass, incorporated it for your black ass. And you think he wanted to take something from you. All my father wanted to do was be a musician, right? Didn't want to be, right? That brother fucker type church stuff, it ain't real. And by the way, that church died with the founders. I told people it would. I told his son, the shit's gonna die with y'all because, there's no God in that shit. All this driving around the Rolls Royce and the Bentley, and your people taking the bus, throwing money up on the altar in their bills. Let them pay their bills. People owe you 10% of an ass whooping. That's what they owe you 10% of for lying to them all these years. But the real God exists. And I wouldn't waste your time. I wouldn't bring it up if I didn't know for myself. If I did not know for myself. Talk to God. Prayer works. It really does. Sister Sean sent me a gift. Sister Sean doesn't know something. I prayed to God for a certain amount of money. I want to give it to my mother and the other half for me. I prayed and I didn't ask anyone. I just says, God, send it. Sister Sean sent exactly what I asked for without me ever saying anything to her. And it was divided exactly as I wanted God to do it. I've never said that to Sister Sean. Prayer works. And it wasn't $50.
Well, speaking of that, run that Cash App. It's Dr. Short's birthday. I'm looking at the $ Dr. Randy Short. Everybody, I don't know, we're streaming everywhere. It's his birthday. He is giving his testimony, very, very personal. So I would like to, I don't want to interrupt, and I'll have my little closing. Yeah, we love you. Happy birthday. I want to remind, because you even got my mind kind of twisted. I almost off course here. But it is your birthday. I want to remind everybody that this is a birthday. This is a testimony. Hopefully, it won't be the last testimony. We do have a lot of trauma in our lives, and we need to really think about how to deal with that trauma to move forward. Because a lot of the things that are really holding us back is the black hand. I mean, we just got to be honest about it. And another thing I was thinking about Rosa Parks, on the bus. I think Rosa Parks should have stayed on the bus. I'm really thinking about that. And here's what I mean. We should stay on the bus, because I didn't really realize in that history, a lot of that history, Dr. Short has helped me with the previous Rosa Parks, and that Rosa Parks is, we literally shut down the people really for over 1 year, did not ride public transportation. No white public transportation. That's discipline.
But there was black public transportation, and like my grandfather, my great grandfather, who looks like, if you've ever seen a can of Pringles potato chips, that's what my grandfather looks like with the curled mustache. Again, I like being black. But God, if you saw Sean, you got in your family too. I mean, it just, that was the other thing I have to say to y'all, learning how everything's a lie, going to my first family reunion, and there are people that look Chinese, people with blonde hair, blue eyes, just every kind. And I'm thinking, the absolute minority of people at the family reunion would have looked like me.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying, Sister Sean?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm saying that they're black.
Yeah, you go, well, where all these white folk come from?
And my God, they're black. And I'm thinking, my God, I look like this. Granddaddy has a pointed nose, thin lips. My brother has the little slanted eyes and small ears and the thin lips and more wavy hair. And I look like this. And, my aunt, my great aunt, that was named for my great great grandmother, they called me nigger monkey, because I guess they didn't have. Yeah, I mean, that black self-hatred.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah,
and the person that I was named for could pass for white. They absolutely hated me. I was the nigger monkey in the family. I mean, this is some really nasty colorism, which is why I don't use the name that Sean. I mean, in fact, my comment is, he'll go to his funeral, I'll go to mine.
Let me add this in context. I was a member of Free Gospel Church, the same church that your father came out of, Bishop Ralph E. Green. I was a deacon in the church. I went to the school, Opeka Open Bible Institute for Christian Apologetics. Bishop Green married me and my his mom in 91.
And you're divorced now too.
I'm divorced now.
Yeah, he did that marriage. Okay, I believe.
So I just want to give some context for those who are Free Gospelites who came under Bishop Ralph E. Green, his wife Shirley Green, his daughter who took over the church. Well, the split that happened with Antoinette and Wayne. I'm familiar with the history. I was there. Matter of fact, I was an avid listener to Bishop Green Monday, Wednesday, Fridays from 8 to 8:30. Okay. I came out of True Grace Holy Temple and went to Reverend Green's church and became a member. And I can co-sign what you're saying, because the church split because at the height of PACT, People Against Civic Terror, back in 1994, 96, my brother got killed in 93. Free Gospel was man was unstoppable. But he instead of listening to the Lord, chose family. And everything went downhill after that.
Okay, now you need to know this because you don't know it. He was supposed to be my godfather, and she was supposed to be my godmother. Okay. And that church was started by my dad for him.
Mm.
My dad created it because he had been kicked out of
The way to cross.
Where the Cross Church because they were jealous of him. They made him give up boxing and then didn't want to let him be a preacher.
Doc, there's no coincidences. Our history and what we're talking about, we're going back decades.
I'm going back to 1963, 64. And what I'm saying to you is that and Holy Temple was established with the technical advisement of my mother and father. And there are other churches that people help put them together. All they want to do is do the good work, help the people. So my mother was the lead soloist for Free Gospel. And they would go out and they just have my mother sing, and they'd have hundreds and hundreds of people come because my mother could really be one of them gospel shouters. Folk would come, by the hundreds. They made that church for him.
Right.
And they never, when I talked to Wayne in 2010, I told Wayne, ask your mother who started the church for you. I don't want anything. I don't want a love offering. I don't want to be in the funeral program. But damn it, ask her who started where your family got rich. Who did it for you? Tell her what I said, and she'll says, you know what? If you dare tell her what I said, you will be thrown out of your own church. I dare you to ask her who started it. Remember, he got kicked out around 11?
Yeah.
Yes. He and I had a conversation in December of 2010. How about that? He went and he asked. So I don't want nothing. Know what the truth is. We should be friends at least. I don't want anything. Do you get where I'm coming from? There is a dark, contaminated heart of what I call Hollywood. It is a performance. It's like Holy Ghost Star Search. Or should I say Black Christian Idol. It isn't about serving the people. It is not about teaching liberation from sin and liberation from racism and Black self-hatred. It isn't hard to do. I do a little bit on social media. That church should have been a place where I grew up, and we had and you and I would have met, we would have been doing all this stuff. We were sabotaged by these fake pharisaical boomers who were more into being praised and enriching themselves than doing the work of the people. This is the story of Black people in Africa, the Caribbean, worldwide. We are cursed by this need to be worshiped and for all the money to come to me and my family.
Yep.
Instead of thinking, so when I would go, did you know Trinita Payton, Carlin Payton, Betty Sanders? You know them?
I got to see a picture of him.
Gregory Sanders.
Was he the audio man?
He's very tall, and he's a cop in Prince George's County.
Yes, I know Greg. I know
He's my cousin. He's my father's baby sister's oldest boy. You grew up with my cousins. I'm just saying to you, we had all this in common, and none of that was enough for people to even talk to each other. Okay, that's how bad this thing is. So all of these, all of us, everybody came up together. We go all the way back. This stuff, and I'm just saying to you, our people, when slavery ended, the plantation was replaced by the no good black church and sharecropping. And then the new plantations, the Democratic Party, welfare, and other things. There's so many different, but there's still a plantation. And it says, you'll know the truth, and the truth will make you free. The truth is that you don't need any of it. You only need God. And then it says, when you have God, don't forsake the fellowship with the righteous people, not hypocrites that take a bunch of breath mints after doing blowjobs and drinking, that come to church. You know, you can smell the alcohol and stuff. You can smell the strippers' coochie on people's clothes. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. Okay.
Again, Doc, I just wanted to add some context.
Right. Yeah, don't get me started. Birthday.
For
10 o'clock. Go ahead. Q, thank you. Thank you so much for coordinating this birthday. And yeah, I'm gonna I'm just glad to be here in the company of good men.
Right.
Quality men and men that I adore. I love the black man. Hail to the black man.
And God bless black women.
And God bless, God bless Chef C. He's been a little quiet. Everybody's been listening. And that's what it is, because it's your birthday. We're here to absorb. There's so much more to absorb. And we're going to get it on round 2. We're going to get it next year.
Hey,
next year.
Anybody in the panel that has anything they want to add on,
I'm gonna
to what Dr. Short
mute
to the conversation. Chef C, brother Roland, I know you guys have been on mute, but if you guys got something you want to add before we close out, more than welcome. I'm gonna just say, in listening to Dr. Short talk about his life, and you look at some of the similarities that we've all had, why Dr. Short chose this topic, we need to understand that he has a method for why he chose a topic. And for someone who had lived from Johnson to now President Trump, and then seeing the struggle for true liberation of Black American people, you get a glimpse of, through his life, what we've been through, what we've accomplished, what we haven't accomplished, where we're going. And we need to get a real clear perspective of what we need to do going forward. And in his Ronald Trump fashion, he will close out the show.
I want to thank you guys so much for such a wonderful tribute.
You don't stop it.
I just need.
Go ahead with that old madness.
I got hair
Jesus
just
is
like
enough.
I've got
you think it's too much, D.
I've got hair just like the guy that you've been praying to. I need you to continue to support me. And I know some of you are butthurt over the DEI cuts, but I'm going to make it up to you, I promise. Just like I promised not to cheat on Milena. This means so much to me. Chef C, you're a hell of a mensch. I mean, you make some great fish. I bet you had some great fish too. Women like cookers. Yeah, women will screw a chef because they don't have to go in the kitchen and their makeup doesn't come off. I learned all about that.
So where's
I want to thank Brother Q. I mean, you got out before I could give you the second step back. So, but it's still a lot of love here for you, Brother Robin. Cool it with the guns. Cool it. You need to be cool. You need to learn how to fit in. You need to learn how to wear a suit, Robin. Stop fighting against white supremacy. It's going to be here, sort of like a shanker on your penis when you don't go to see your doctor when you get infected.
Pause.
And of course, I want to thank our brother Juan. I hope you betrayed Black people as often as you arrested white people. We got to keep it even. I really respect you. I want to thank everybody for this. And You know how to Cash App Dr. Short, $sign DRRANDYSHORT. On behalf of Dr. Short, Ronald Trump, I'm the black manifestation of the greatest person of all times. Don't worry, I'm going to get rid of Elon. I understand he's really bad for black people. And I really like the people in South Africa, especially when I went to Kruger Park. They helped me kill lions. But you know, I felt bad because I felt the lions had copied their hairstyle for me. They may have been cool, but I still shot them. And I want to just say to you that you've got to get, well, I don't know what to say, but you can send it Dr. Randy Short. You can send that, or I do sell. That's my email, wrandyshort@gmail.com. It's also PayPal. I've got a Patreon, which is Dr. Randy Short. I've got a Venmo, which is Dr. Randy Short. I don't care how big the contribution is. I've got a huge basket full of books I need on Amazon. It's about $400. If I could get 2 tonight, that would be so great. So I thank you. And someone said the Bible's Black history. It's true, but the star is Jesus, and I say he's white. I don't want to lose the paying customers. You know how you don't put blacks up front in the restaurant? Well, you got to kind of keep white Jesus up to keep all your customers happy. If you put a black Jesus in your church, nobody will go. The country will become communistic and Islamic. Come on. Let's work. I get it. He's a black guy, but it's not good for the bottom line. So I want to wish you guys a good night. I live to be 60. I can't believe I wasn't a victim of street crime here in D.C. And the coons didn't get me at Howard, and the coons didn't get me at the HBCUs, and the coons didn't get me in church. So I'm here to say I'm committed, dedicated, and my victories will be your victories. My jokes will be your jokes. And by the way, I had this joke. Can I tell a joke?
No.
Yes,
somebody said we're Brother Bag X.
I'm going to tell you guys a joke. What does a stud lesbian call AI robotics? What is AI robotics to a stud lesbian?
What?
I think you black people are intellectually inferior, but you know, I'll still hire you. I've got golf courses. You can carry a caddy. They make great money. Lesbians consider vacuum cleaners as AI robotics. In fact, that's why they don't have vacuum cleaner stores in gay areas.
Is it a Hoover or is it a Kirby?
It doesn't matter if it sucks
doesn't
carpet.
matter.
If it sucks carpet, it's competition.
Okay.
Nobody wants competition. People want monopoly. We want everything, like my friend Elon. We just want to have everything. It's the white way. It's the American way. It's MAGA for certain people. So I'm going to close out here. And maybe Brother Bag X will be with someone else.
Brother Bag X wants to sack Trump.
No, well, he hates me because he's a black Democrat. Those are the dumbest ass people. They voted for this whore named Kamala. I mean,
Lord.
I mean, Kamala Harris with the amount of people she slept with, she should have had a chain of prostitutional Airbnbs to capitalize her harlotry. So I think she's the most undercapitalized whore on her level. It's unbelievable. What a waste. It's a bloodbath.
Well, don't they say hoeing ain't easy, just like they say pimping ain't easy.
Well, so hoeing ain't easy, but hoeing pays. Hoeing pays. One thing that will sell will be bacon and pussy.
Right?
Bacon
Equal
and
opportunity,
pussy.
pimping and hoeing, right?
Fried chicken, bacon, candy, sweet goods, and pussy. Always for sale. I even had to buy some from Stormy. I couldn't believe it.
Wait a minute. Stop it. there's tariffs. So there's a significant increase with inflation and the tariffs on the bleep, bleep, bleep.
Well, I don't think so. I believe
your
that
birthday, and what we need you to do is to stop these tariffs, 25% in this inflation. So the price of eggs, you know what they say, what that got to do with the price of tea in China? The new thing is, what does that have to do with the price of eggs in America?
Well, what we do know is what COVID did with the price of sex in America. It came way down. Low gas prices, good economy, and affordable sex for the people that aren't married trying to pay to stay at loss.
Thank you, Ronald Trump. Appreciate
Thank
you.
Randy Trump. Bye-bye, y'all.
Y'all take care.
Okay,
Have a
guys.
blessed one.
You guys stay white.
What have you done for me lately? It's Coons. What have y'all done for us lately? And if there's no answer, the only thing we owe them